Okay, so Rabbi Bernath, who needs no introduction because of how well known he is. However, I wanted to anyway, because he's a very giving person. And he said, I'm coming for Kinnis. I have a free night. Let's not waste it. If there's one person I can help, great. So it started as a fabring in my house, and I said, we realized it wouldn't be enough people, and the Rebbetzin, who's left, kindly gave us the shul. And I want to thank her so much, and I want to thank all of you for coming. And I wanted to introduce Rabbi Bernath with a story. Now, we know he's a filmmaker. He's been in films. He's been in a TV show with 30 million people, a crazy TV show. He's amazing. He's out of the box and helps community people every age. So one time, and he also helps with the Pagishas as a speaker, keynote speaker, as a host. So one time, this is just a gift he has that I invite you all to take advantage of. Do you mind I say?
I don't know what you're going to say.
He's made, look how young he is. There's not a gray hair. He's made 104 marriages. That's amazing. Oh, wow. Because he sees. He can really see you. And if he knows your soulmate, he really has a sense of it. And one time we were standing at Pagisha in a big crowd of people, and he said, you see those two people? I said, yeah. He goes, they're soulmates. I said, no. Why aren't they dating? He said, no, he doesn't want to go out with her. I said, why not? He goes, I've tried. Why not? You know, she was like 5-6 years older, something like that. But they're soulmates. The next year, they were at the Pagisha married. The next year, they couldn't come because they had a baby, then more babies. And I was just like, aha! So I want to give a blessing that all of you, it should be that easy. You should recognize from your heart, mind, and soul your other half, and they should recognize you, and you should just inhale all the pearls of wisdom that the Rabbi is sharing with us. And the whole idea of a workshop is to shift and grow, and you should be blessed with only revealed good, obli dai, with your soulmates, with children, with a happy, healthy, loving home, with all your heart's desires answered. Rabbi Bernath.
It's an honor to be here. It's been a while since I've been in New York. I've done quite a bit on Zoom, but not actually physically here. It's nice to be here to feel the energy, the souls, being here together. So I want to do a little bit of a housekeeping before we begin. You have a number of choices. There's always choices in front of you. The choices you don't make tonight or any time are the choices that will be made for you. So I like to just give you the options. You can be half here and half somewhere else, which means you can have your phone. For me, I just turn my phone off so I can totally be here with you during the time that we're here. There's nothing else in the world for me right now than to be here with you during this time. And after I'm done, then I'll be somewhere else. And you'll be somewhere else. Or you can just kind of be half here, half not here. The other thing that you can be is you can kind of, it's very hard to learn something new. Very hard. And I'm aware of that. And some of the things I'm going to say here tonight maybe will offend somebody, or maybe you'll take it the wrong way. And that's your choice. Your choice is to sit here with your arms folded and guarded yourself. And if you're guarded, that's okay. Guarded is good. That, a lot of people are guarded. Or to just allow tonight to be open to something new. Who knows? There's really no way of really knowing what's going to be, but just to allow yourself to experience whatever we're going to experience tonight. I don't know how much we're going to get through. So that's why I put together this booklet for you. This booklet is everything before tonight. I was planning to make sure it's in bullet form. I call it single form. Very easy, very simple. I made it in a way that designed it in a way that's pretty simple. We'll get through some of it. We won't get through some of it. But at least you have this to take with you as some of the main points that we're going to speak about tonight, or that we may not speak about tonight. What I like to do is the following. For the first half of our time together, I'll talk. Not as much of a monologue as I like. We'll see, maybe we'll do some interactive. There's cards all over your tables. Now those cards, you see, I'm aware of it, there's lots of different types of people in the room. There's lots of different types of people that you're going to date or that you have dated. Some people are extroverts. They like to be heard in a crowd. But some people are introverts. They don't like to be heard in the crowd. They like to sit in the back. They like to make sure, like, they if I were to pick on them, they would be cringing even thinking of the thought that maybe I was going to pick on them. So for those people who are both extroverted and introverted, there's cards. You can write your questions or anything you want to say on those cards. You can send them up over here. They can be anonymous. They can be not anonymous. That's totally your choice. But at least it gives you the ability, if you're not someone who will speak, but you have something that's on your mind and you want to talk about that, it gives you the ability to really be able to be part of this conversation. I don't want this to be a monologue. I want this to be us experiencing this moment together. So those are the cards that are there. If you don't have a card, you can take a piece of paper. You can find something, but make sure that your voice is heard if it needs to be heard. Obviously, don't be the only voice heard because we're more than a few of us here in this room. Before we begin formally, just want to acknowledge, first of all, the Soul House right here that gave us this great space. We've heard so much about this place, and it's very nice to be able to actually physically be here and to experience. We can also feel, for those of you who are more intuitive, you can feel the energy in this room. There's an energy that carries, so I hope that we can tap into that energy of all the good that happens here on a daily basis and be able to capture that tonight and use that. We also want to acknowledge Shoshana Bander, who constantly is pushing me to get out there and to do these things. So thank you very much for organizing this, for the beautiful food and everything that you've done here, for putting your heart and soul into this evening. And of course, we want to acknowledge tonight the fact that we're here, the choice that we've made to be here. There's so many other things you can be doing right now, but the choice that you've made to be here means that you've actively been part of a decision. And now that you've made that decision, destiny is in Hashem's hands. Destiny is what happens once you get here. Destiny is what happens, and you can't always control that. And so we need to acknowledge the destiny in this moment. So often in the hustle and bustle of our lives, we lose the fact that we're here. This is reality. We're not a shell of a human being. Our mind, our bodies, our spirits, every part of us is here in this room. And so I want to acknowledge that. Tonight is a very special night. I want to share a little Dvar Torah, then we can say we did Dvar Torah and we can move on. I think it's amazing that this Parsha is the Parsha that we're meeting on. It's the first matchmaking. It's the first match ever made, that at least in recorded history. Saw you at the well. And it's an amazing story, if you think about the story for a moment. Let's just focus on the story. This will be my Torah bit for you. Think about the story. So he's looking for a match. Eliezer is looking for a match for for Yitzchak. I'm still on the plane. He's looking for a match for Yitzchak, and he has a list. It's a very simple list. It's one thing. He says, if I go to the well, and she asks me if I want water, and then she also wants to feed my camels, that's the one for my master's son. Now, I just want to kind of put this into modern day event. So let's just pretend we're at an event like this. And somebody said, would you like water? But I'm also going to give water to the entire room.
He's a keeper.
He's a keeper, right?
Your entire family, not the entire room. People who you're close with.
Well,
Your
what
kids.
about...
I'm going to give for you. Don't have your kids. Decent.
What about the entire room? Why are you being so?
The Rivka didn't get
We're all one.
Standing up for
The entire
We're all one big family here.
Gas for the car.
We're all the camels.
That's exactly it.
If you take a look at who Eliezer is looking for, Eliezer is looking for someone who has the ability to give more than they take. We all take. We live in a world of give and take. In order to give, there has to be someone who will receive. So that's not a bad thing. Being for yourself is not a bad thing. But if you're only for yourself, if you're only taking, then there's no one to give. He just wants to find someone who can give more than they can take. And he uses an interesting dynamic and structure in order to create that. Just a thought for you. In order to really define what Eliezer is looking for, I want to go through a number of things tonight. Like I said, this part of our talk, I'm going to give it about 35 minutes. Can you handle 35 minutes? Is that too long for you? No. I'll try to put it in 1 minute snippets, so that way I don't lose you, because I know I see over here, I lost half of them already, just because it's the moment I said Torah, I was like, So we're going to try not to lose you and keep you here focused. Some of our relationships are based on unconditional love, or at least they should be. According to the Torah, Pirkei Avos calls this Ava she'eina tuluya b'davar. Love which doesn't depend on anything. There's your family. And each relationship, even in your family, is going to be different. For example, you need to honor and respect your parents. Love to be a giver or a receiver with your spouse, or in this case, with your future spouse. Raise your children, give them a good education. Try not to be a rival with your siblings. All different types of relationships. Then there's our extended family, the Jewish people, the tribe. The Torah wants us all to love each other unconditionally. That's the mitzvah of Avas Yisroel, of loving our fellow as ourselves. It's probably the most difficult mitzvah that we have. The other category is another category, and that is of conditional love. We call it Ava Shetuluya Bedavar, conditional love. Working relationships, co-workers, your boss, your neighbors, even the government. They're conditional loves. You're not obliged to love any of these people, but you need to get along with them. You need to do what the Torah calls darchei shalom. You need to get along with them in a way of peace. So what do all these relationships have in common? Those that are unconditional, those that are conditional. What do each of these relationships have in common? What do they all need to improve? Because a relationship by nature will have something that will need to improve. One thing I could think of is conflict. Conflict. Think about that word for a moment. Conflict. Every single relationship has or could have some kind of conflict. What do you think? What's the first thing that comes to mind when I say the word conflict? Ukraine. Next. Anyone else? Conflict. If I say the word conflict, what?
Fight. I don't know.
Fight. Argument. Disagreement. Communication. Stress. Miscommunication. Tension. Anger. Wow, a lot of negative. And a lot of negative associations with the word conflict.
Acknowledging someone else's opinion.
Acknowledging someone else's opinion. Growth. Oh, okay. Opportunity. Oh, look at this.
Chaotic love.
What do you say?
Chaotic love.
Chaotic love. Okay, we can talk about that. Fascinatingly enough, often when we say the word conflict, it doesn't give us good feelings. Unless we kind of point it out and then all of a sudden the story changes, the narrative changes. What about embracing conflict? The first thing that I want to say here tonight, and it may be something that you haven't heard before, but it's something that I hope that you don't only use in your dating process, but it takes you through your relationships and through your marriages, God willing, very soon. Conflict is good. Conflict is a good thing. Somehow, in our society, I don't know when it was before probably most of us were born. Somebody told us that conflict isn't good. Let's take the easy road. We're not trained this way in North America to think of conflict as a good thing. But Judaism teaches us that conflict is how we learn. Conflict is how we grow. Conflict is collective thinking. It just depends most of the time on how we manage it. For those of you who like film, every film is made up of 3 parts. Every single film is made up of 3 parts. The opening, the conflict, and the resolution. Nobody is going to watch a film that doesn't have a conflict. It's not interesting. It's boring. There's no filmmaker in the world that will make a film without a conflict. I'll tell you something else. There are 2 Talmuds in our tradition. The Talmud Bavli and the Talmud Yerushalmi. The Babylonian Talmud and the Jerusalem Talmud. There are 2 Talmuds. They were actually written right around the same time. Which one is the one that we study most? It's the Babylonian Talmud. Do you know why? Because the Jerusalem Talmud just has facts. There's no conflict in it. The Babylonian Talmud is filled with conflict. Back and forth, people arguing. The entire book is a book of conflict, of arguments. And you know what's so interesting about it? That is the basis of our oral tradition. Conflict. And sometimes there's no resolution. If you were someone who liked things straight, you would be really annoyed. There's no resolution to most of the conflicts. You're just reading, okay, and now what? You mean we went back and forth, we had to make flow charts and spreadsheets to try to even understand what all these rabbis are saying, and what's the result? There's no result. And what do the teachers say? If you ever go to yeshiva, they don't say it this way, but I'm going to paraphrase what they're saying. You have to enjoy the conflict. You have to enjoy the process. It's not always about the resolution. So why is it so obvious to us when we're sitting and learning Gemara? Wait. Why? It's all part of the joy. Why is it so? Take 2, exactly. That was good because I was trying like every minute to break it up. So that was a good breakup. And I don't mean that kind of breakup. So you can be careful with the words that you say all of a sudden. It's amazing how conflict is so much part of our tradition, of our teachings, but it doesn't transfer its way into our lives. Why is conflict so healthy in a relationship? Why is conflict so healthy? It's healthy because in human nature, every strength that a person has also contains a weakness. And vice versa. Every weakness that we have contains a strength. Just think about this for a moment. I want to just pause this, and I want you to just think about this. Every strength you have, if you're good at something, it means you're not good at something else. Every strength has a weakness, and every weakness has a strength. For example, if someone is really neat, if someone is really organized, if someone is really on time, all those are considered to be, in our society, good traits, right? You're neat, you're organized, you're on time, but they also imply a weakness. Can the person be flexible? Neat, organized, and on time sounds great, but can they be flexible? Can they let go and have fun, allow life to just happen? Would you go on vacation with them? Well, maybe you would go on vacation. If you want to see the Grand Canyon, Mount Rushmore, and a Broadway show all in the same day, you'd probably go on vacation with them because they're very organized. They could get that done. They'll probably get it done with minute-by-minute precision. How relaxing. I'm excited. So the interesting thing for our super organized hypothetical person is what happens when he or she has to deal with someone who's different. At home, at work, at school, anywhere. The first thing to understand is that you need them and they need you. They need you to teach them to be a little more organized. And you need them to teach you to learn how to be flexible, if you're that kind of person. Different situations in life are going to require different traits. Sometimes you need to be flexible. So if both of us in a relationship are super neat and organized, well, I don't know if it's going to be you just have to know that you're setting yourself up for a particular type of relationship that's going to be very neat and organized. I had a couple that was in my office yesterday, actually. I spend a lot of my time meeting with couples, more than singles, actually, now. A couple was there, and he was showing off. He's showing off this bookcase. He's an engineer. He's showing off a bookcase that he designed. You have to see. The design, it was precision. Forget about precision. He had made an entire map on AutoCAD. I don't know if you know what this program is. I never heard of it before. I heard it for the first time yesterday. He designed, it's a bookcase for his apartment. He designed it on AutoCAD. He was able to figure out every single screw and how much every to the precision. Guess what? He's married to an artist. So what you're saying is probably a recipe for conflict. But it's also a recipe for an interesting life. Because he's very precise and organized, and she's very free-flowing. And it works. What happens when your boss or your professor or your teacher leaves something a bit up in the air? Will you freak out because you couldn't deal with it in advance? Or are you going to be able to wing it? Because you need to sometimes. Look at me right now. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm the kind of person who's very organized. As you can tell, I planned out a whole little talk for you this evening. But I got to the airport and my flight was canceled. And they rebooked me, thank you very much. But then that flight was delayed. And so I was supposed to arrive in New York about 4.5 hours ago. And I arrived about half an hour ago. I was actually on the plane 25 minutes before I walked into this place. Thank God for...
Driver. Taxi or Uber?
Well, they were very anyway, when they rebooked me, because I have a little bit of status, they were like trying to be nice to me, so they put me in first class. So I was the first one off the plane. Yes, I know. Thank you very much. I felt really good about myself. I was sitting there, my feet folded. Can I please have a ginger ale? Then they're bringing me over the pork sandwich. I'm like, no, thank you. Anyway. It's my wife, who's an artist, who's a free-flowing spirit, and being married to her for 18 years, that's allowed me to step out of that. I want to tell you, 18 years ago, I would have been a wreck walking in here tonight. I would have been a wreck. I would have been such a wreck, I wouldn't be able to speak to you. And I'm not joking. I would have had to say, I don't know, let's make this the Farbrengen, and I would have tried to figure out some kind of creative way of, I wouldn't be able to stand up here and speak. I would have been a wreck. But one of the most incredible things I've learned over the course of my marriage is to allow influence. One of the most beautiful things you can do in a relationship is allow influence. And so over 18 years of allowing my wife to influence me, I was able to just say, it's all hashgacha pratis. It's all going to be good. And every single time I had to say it to myself probably 300 times throughout the course of my journey this afternoon. It's all meant to be. It'll be okay. Whatever will be, will be. And if I can tell you, now looking back 18 years, how much I needed that in my life. I still have this part. Don't worry. The organized, conscientious part of me hasn't changed. But now I also have the ability to breathe in between, and I'm not the one who plans vacations. These are things that conflict will bring to your life. If you're able to appreciate the conflict and then allow influence. People, all of us, not you, me, we're complicated. We're so complicated. There are so many different kinds of conflicts. And we all think that our conflicts are unique. Nobody has what I'm going through. I am the only one in my life. That's lonely. That's very lonely. I'm the only one in the whole world that ever experienced what I'm going through. Nobody will ever be able to understand me. It's very lonely. We should shed a tear for the loneliness. There's a lot of loneliness in the world. So tonight, I want to present something that I think is going to help you a lot. What it is, it's a little bit of scientific research that will allow you to first understand yourself. Remember, I have good news for you. I have very, very good news for you. Half of your marriage is in this room. 50% of your marriage is in this room right now. You.
Oh
Oh, was that not obvious? Wow. That was a fascinating anecdotal study that just happened right there. That was a fascinating, I will not lie, did not expect that kind of response. Oh yeah, right, that's true. 50% is, 100%, that's two halves of a whole, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I'll say that again, because the first time it didn't click. Half of your marriage is in the room right now. Now, growing up, and you probably heard this before, because it's this most beautiful, romantic story that every single person who ever learned anything Jewish knows, that the Jewish view on marriage is that you're two halves of a single whole, and the beautiful Gemara, that before birth you're split in half, and you both come down. It's this romantic story, and you both come down into this world, and then you're going to search for the person, but you're not truly searching for them, because really all you're doing is trying to find the other 50% of who you are. And I heard this so many times, and I'm sure you have as well. And then I found some scientific research to finally explain how to do it. How do I first understand the first 50% and find the other 50%? So my goal tonight on a practical, very practical level, is I want you to leave, besides answering your questions, which I haven't seen any over here yet, because if I did, I would be interrupting myself and looking at them because I love the questions. Huh?
No, this is the whole point. You don't pass it out.
What?
Pass it up.
If you pass it out, he's gonna get distracted.
Oh, I don't know. Fold it in everyone should fold it in 4. They should all be folded in 4. So that way no one knows where it came from. That's the rule. A card folded in 4 can be completely anonymous.
Can I ask the first question?
Hold on a second.
What are we supposed to pass up?
Oh, there's index cards around. I don't know if everyone has them. If not, you can take a napkin. You can take whatever you want. If it's writable, just don't write on your hand because you can't pass your hand up. Take a half a napkin. It's perfect. So besides for the questions and answers that we're going to get to soon, what I want you to come out of here tonight with is a real formula to understand who you are, to understand yourself, and then to be able to understand the other half. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Are we good? We need to stretch? We need to, are we in the zone or we're not in the zone? We're in the zone, okay. Oh, here we go. My faves. Okay. Tonight is going to be very exciting.
Already started.
Okay. Shoshana, my son is there.
But you're good on saying that you found the scientific research that
Yeah. So here, second half. Second half of my planned talk. It all began in 1919. A young American psychologist named Gordon Alpert. Anyone ever hear of him? Anyone who studied psychology in their life would have heard of him. He paid a visit to the famed Sigmund Freud. He's in Vienna, and he's telling Freud about his journey on the train. And there was this little boy that was on the train who was obsessed with staying clean. And he didn't want to sit next to anyone, he didn't want to touch anything, and of course, he's psychoanalyzing this kid on the train. And Albert wondered if the boy's mother had some kind of dirt phobia that rubbed off on him. And so now he's telling this whole story to Freud. And he's telling that, he was psychoanalyzing this kid and he was wondering about the mother's dirt phobia. And Freud looks at him and says, actually, and I'm not going to do the Austrian accents, the boy that you are thinking of is you. It's your inner child. And he made some kind of statement to Alpert about his repressed childhood. Alpert thought that Freud was digging a little too deep, and that sometimes you have to just look at the behavior and describing personality in terms of fundamental traits and fundamental characteristics, conscious motives. And he wasn't interested in explaining traits as he was in describing what are the fundamental characteristics that go into a personality. And he created something today that's called the Big Five. And I wrote them there in your book. You have them there. You can also look them up online. There is so much research about them. They've become really popular recently. A number of psychologists who are really well known have made them more popular recently. And now, I want to just tell you something really important about these terms, because I don't like negative terminologies, but this is science. And so there's a negative connotations, but they're not really negative. It's just a scientific view of them. So the 5 things are, it's either ocean or canoe, if you want to use the mnemonic, conscientiousness, agreeableness, neuroticism, open to experience, and extroversion. And there's an opposite for each of these. So let's start with the C. The 2 sides, if you look in your book, you'll see the 2 sides of the C are conscientiousness and the other side of it. Now, let's look at a spectrum. And we're going to do this later, actually. We're going to do an exercise, and you're going to find where you are on this spectrum of personality traits. So one side, the way it works is 0 to 40. 20 is the middle of the spectrum. One side is conscientiousness, and the other side, again, it's negative, but it's not really negative, because you're going to see it's also positive. They call it lack of direction. So conscientious is somebody who's organized. This random person that we spoke about before, who likes to go on precision vacations. Someone who's on time, someone who's self-disciplined. The scientists call the opposite of that lack of direction. Like what we say in the South, that boy lacks direction. Conscientiousness is the personality trait of being hardworking, of being honest. People who prefer clean homes. The people who are, let's say, called lack of direction may prefer a nice, organized mess. I mean, it's not that it's a mess. They know where everything is. It just looks to the person who is more organized as a mess. But they know where everything is. And the truth is that if you brought in a professional organizer to organize their life, in 2 minutes it's going to be a mess again. Because that's the way they like to live their life. It's not you're saying somehow our society decided this is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. This is the reality of how some people like it. It gives them a certain openness of experience. We'll talk about that in a second too. Someone who's agreeable, number 2, is someone who always agrees. Someone who always is a yes person, who always gets along with everyone. They're diplomatic. They're polite. They're nice. What's the opposite of agreeable? Antagonistic. Someone who's disagreeable. Someone who always says no. Someone who's blunt, who's moody. Maybe a bit of a curmudgeon, if you know what that word is. You know, a curmudgeon. No, a curmudgeon. You know, it's usually an old man that's 142 who has. They call it an out the cocker. Old and crotchety.
Get off my lawn.
Karen.
That's right. Whoever said that, get off my lawn.
Karen.
Maybe. I don't know. We have to psychoanalyze the Karen to really truly understand it. So, agreeableness. So let's just understand this from a scientific perspective. Agreeableness reflects how much individuals adjust their behavior to suit others. Are you someone who has opinions and you will not be able to convince me no matter what you do? You are someone who's disagreeable. If you're someone who has lots of opinions and nobody can convince you, nobody can teach you, which means you come here and you know everything already, you're probably disagreeable. Now, it's not a bad thing because it causes you to want to know everything. But then you have your opinions, and I'll tell you the person who I think is the most disagreeable. It's an amazing, it's a terrible story and a wonderful story all at the same time. I was reading Simon Wiesenthal's biography. Everyone know who Simon Wiesenthal was? Simon Wiesenthal was the most notorious Nazi hunter. He spent his entire life hunting Nazis to the point where he made still to this day, a huge organization in Washington. And there's not so many Nazis, thank God, left to, well, I don't know, because the opposite is also not so many survivors left. But they spent years and years hunting the most notorious Nazis, many of them were very complicated stories, but he did it. And I was fascinated about this guy because this guy, I don't understand him. He's a completely disagreeable person. Think about it. He had a vengeance. It just happened to be that his disagreeableness was something that most of the world agreed with him on. So he was able to make a life out of it. But he had a real vengeance after the Holocaust. So he tells the story. I was reading his biography, page 48, right on the bottom. This is a random story in his biography. He says that they're in a DP camp in 1946. And a guy came over to him, and he says to him, I'd like to borrow the equivalent of an American $10. He said, I have a package coming in next week, I'll give it back to you. He said he gives him the $10. A week goes by, no sign of the guy. 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, 5 months, 10 months later, the guy comes running over to him. And he says, I have your $10. I got my visa to go to Canada. I'm leaving tomorrow. Here it is. He looks at him straight in the eyes. This is how he writes it. And he says, keep your $10. I'm not going to let $10 change my opinion of you. This is someone who is be'etzem, truly disagreeable. I don't agree with the story. I think it's a terrible story. I think everyone has the ability to do tshuva, to change. Everyone has the ability to be, but it happened to be, using him as a metaphor, he is a perfect example because he had a vengeance that, look, it led to a lot of good things, but most of us don't have that kind of disagreeableness that's going to lead to that kind of reaction. That's the definition of disagreeable. So it's in some ways, it's a very good thing because it means that you really know what you want. So for some people, that's really good. But if you also marry someone who knows what they want, that's going to be the source of a tremendous amount of conflict. I've seen it before. So, agreeable versus disagreeable. Number 3. Following me here? Neurotic. Neurotic, oh yes, these researchers are bad. They went there. Neurotic, they went after our poor Jewish mothers. How did they know? Probably. Neuroticism is how emotional somebody is. It's an emotional stability versus instability. It could be anxiety, it could be anger, it could be depression, it could be impulsiveness, it could be thin skin, lack of self-confidence. The opposite of it is emotional stability. It's neuroticism versus emotional stability. So again, neuroticism is the personality trait of being emotional. If somebody's extremely emotional, let's say they score very high in emotional, they may, let's just say, want to find someone who's scoring on the other side of the track. Because two very emotional people in a relationship, I've seen it, causes a lot of conflict. You see where I'm going here?
You could also have conflict with when one side is very emotional, one side is...
We of course. What did we say? Conflict is good. We like conflict.
Is it?
Conflict is good, yes. Conflict is
You were
good.
just saying that.
No, I know. I'm really saying that. By the way, I'm not just saying that. Conflict is good. We decided conflict is not good. Conflict is good. It's the first thing I say whenever a couple steps into my office. The first thing I say is conflict is good. We just have to know how to fight. I'll just take a pause. I see it so often. So, I do what I do, I end up doing a lot of weddings. I officiate a lot of weddings, especially for secular couples. Looking for a rabbi, I end up officiating. This summer, I don't know exactly, I officiated more than 20 weddings this summer.
Wow.
Now, there's a lot of rabbis in the world. I decided, about 5 years ago, I was standing under a beautiful chuppah. It was a beautiful wedding. You know, one of those weddings that are like, wow. The flowers were like, whoa. I'll just tell you, it was here in New York. It was at the Pierre. Anyone know? The New Yorkers know the Pierre. It was a beautiful wedding. And this was, they were making a simple wedding, by the way.
It was a modest wedding?
Very modest, very modest. This is what they told me. And I'm standing there, and you can't help but like, okay, they had like 2 famous singers that were singing at the chuppah, and a beautiful like ensemble. I think it was probably 14 or 15 piece orchestra. It was beautiful. And I'm standing there, I look down at the cup. I'm about to bless this union. I'm a rabbi, about to bless this union. I look up at this beautiful couple. I look back down at my cup, and I look back up at this couple. And I think, what did I do to deserve to bless this union? I got smicha, that's it. What did I do? What did I do for this couple that I should bless their union? Do I know if this is a good union? Do I know if this is a happy marriage? What, I met with them twice? The divorce rate is nicht gut, as they say in French. The divorce rate is problematic today. And so that moment, I made a decision that I will never stand under a chuppah and bless a union unless the couple goes through premarital counseling. They have to go through premarital sessions. I will never, ever again bless a union unless I know this couple has been set up for a long-lasting and healthy relationship. Just a toolbox. A toolbox. No, does not have to be with me. No.
Good for business.
No, it does not have to be with me. I just want to know, yeah?
I have a question. If conflict is so good, then shouldn't you look for someone who's exactly like you?
Oh, we're going to get to that. If conflict is so good, shouldn't you look for someone just like you? We're going to get to that in a minute. I just took a little pause here. But yes, we're going to get to that. So, I want to at least know that a couple, the beginning of marriages are difficult. And I'm not saying this to turn you off from the whole thing. What I'm saying is that every couple communicates differently, argues differently, their conflict is different, and so they need a little toolbox. Funny enough, I said, oh, well, there must be some kind of premarital program out there. Like, I'm not the first one who thought about this. And so I went and I said, okay, I called up, whatever Chabad places. Okay, where's the premarital program that I can sign up for, the JLI premarital program? Garnished. Okay, fine. I went to the OU, figured probably somewhere in the Orthodox world. Started looking, not in Orthodox, not in Reform, not in Conservative, not in, all the other denominations. There's no premarital program that exists in the entire Jewish world. I'll tell you even something crazier. There are rabbis. In some states, there are 2 different prices you pay when you get a marriage license. You go to if you have to go to the courthouse and get your marriage license, people who've been married know this. And so you have to get, from your officiant, you have to get a letter. There are 2 different prices. One price if you had premarital counseling, and one if you didn't. There are rabbis all over the states who are signing papers so these couples can save $1 or maybe a few hundred on their marriage license, but did nothing. They're just doing it so they can save the money, but never did it. Interestingly, just telling you, in contrast, the other side, the Christian side, there's 42 programs.
Wow.
There's 42 different programs. And there's not and I have spoken to some people. I was amazed. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Anyway, this is just, I'm sorry that I'm getting into the sidebar here. It's a fascinating thing. But I definitely think if somebody needs to create a program. I ended up doing quite a bit of research and found 2 or 3 programs on the Christian side that I figured, you know what? I'm going to go look at it. This is not, it's just so I went and got certified. There's a whole process to get certified in these programs. I went and got certified in the programs, and then I was able to, some of it is good, some of it is not good, but I was able to take some of their stuff and some other stuff, and together with 2 psychologists who I'm very close with, because I didn't want to do it without the science behind it, created, I'm going to say, a hybrid program that is not what I want it to be, but at least it's something. Back to, where do we go? So we're at 3, right? What did we talk about so far? We talked about, number 1, C, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and neuroticism. We have 2 more. and then we're going to start. We'll get into the conversation. I see you're already on Shpilkus. Number 4 is openness to experience. It's the personality trait of wanting to travel, wanting to seek new experiences, wanting to get out of the house, dreaming big. And the opposite is closed to experience. The person who likes the same coffee, the same way, the same place every single day, who wakes up at the same time and does everything the same. There's value in both. We're not saying one is better than the other. Open to experience is someone who's intellectually curious, really into aesthetics. They're into their looks. Maybe they like things that are more fantasy or sci-fi. They have a wide interest of hobbies, of interests, of ideas. They like new things all the time. They want to explore the world. Someone who's close to experience, they like routine. They want to go to the same restaurant to get the same dish that they've been getting for the past, I don't know how many years, because they like it. Why should I try something new? I know, that's my dad. Oh. Their choices of entertainment, they're less abstract. They like everything azoi, as we say. And then finally, number 5 is the most obvious one of all. Extrovert versus introvert. Right? An extrovert is someone who seeks fulfillment from sources outside the self. People who are really extroverted tend to be very social, like to get out. People who are very introverted like a book and to stay inside. I'm sure you know exactly where I fit into that thing. I'm a real introvert. The truth is, funny enough that because of our society and the way it's designed, there's a lot of forced extroverts today. A lot of introverts, in order to make it in the world, have to force themselves to be extroverts. So and you're saying, okay, I didn't come here to hear science. I want to show you how this works in Chassidus. I want to back this up with Judaism. Because after all, I'm a rabbi. Yeah, that's it. We got the side. In Chassidus, we have our own terms to refer to these personality factors. We call them spheros or midos. So forget about disagreeable or antagonistic for a second. Is anyone comfortable with identifying themselves as the Gevura type? Can you say, I'm the Gevura type? I'll tell you. Agreeableness refers to chesed. What is chesed? Chesed is kindness that has no end. Gevura is the end of kindness. I don't have to teach you this stuff, right? But most of you know all this stuff. Right? Gevura is the end, is where kindness. If you always say yes, you've never said yes. The first time you say no, all the yeses were real yeses.
So why is it that women score higher on agreeableness than men?
No, I heard that women are more Gvura than men.
Well,
That's what I heard.
I don't like to stereotype anybody. I don't like to generalize anybody. You can decide for yourself. In my booklet here, you're going to be able to score yourself, and you'll decide which side you're on. Because that's what I want you to do tonight. You're going to score yourself. Here there's a whole system here, so you'll know. We don't have to. If you want, maybe at the end, if people are interested, we can actually decide together as a group here, and we can decide which side. If there's more women that score one side or more men that score the other side. If you want to try to make generalizations, but I don't like generalizations. But I try to stay away from them as much as possible, even though sometimes when we're speaking to more than one person, it's hard. A chesed person has to learn to say no. Because if you always agree, then you never really agree. You're just being your own person. They say that somebody who's open to experience makes a very good leader. But if we all scored high on open to experience, nothing would ever get done. Because we'd all be wanting to get the next thrill. Openness to experience is what we call chachma. Chachma doesn't mean wisdom in this sense. It means intellectual conception, a certain kind of ability to create new ideas and things. Back to Pirkei Avos. Im ein chachma, ein bina, im ein bina, ein chachma. Chachma needs bina. So the person who's closed to new experiences is bina, the processor. The one who can develop ideas, but not make them up. That's why bina also means to build in Hebrew. Because we need somebody to be the chachma to make up the idea, to invent the idea, but the inventor can never get the job done. The inventor will always need a bina person who can actually get the job done. By the way, openness to experience, chachma, has a bit of a correlation with being politically liberal. Just by the way, just according to the science. And bina is correlated with being politically conservative. I'm not talking about politics here, but it's just interesting thought. Neurotic people, and that word has such a stigma to it. I'm sorry that we're using that word. But they are midos people. They're people who are emotive. Midos people are more sensitive. We need sensitive people in this world. They're more understanding. And a little drama isn't such a bad thing. They're the people who bring life. They're the emotional life. You know, if everybody was monotone, there would be a very flat effect. You've heard people speak who are monotone. You know what I'm talking about. If every single person who was monotone married someone who was monotone, I've seen it. It's very cute. I mean, it's got a cuteness to it, but it's also like very... Huh? Yes, absolutely. We got to keep things exciting. That's the reality. That neuroticism, which is a really negative connotation that we have to that word, it keeps things exciting. We need that because that's the way the world is. And besides, without neurotic people, we wouldn't have some of the greatest people that ever lived. There's so much art, there's so much comedy, there's so much literature that exists in the world because of these more emotive people. And without introverts, even though they are what you're going to call antisocial, we probably would be stuck in the Stone Age. We wouldn't have much technology or science. We need people to be able to develop, to allow us to see more things. You see, and this is what I really wanted to get to tonight. Give you a little bit of a picture. We need each other. So when we're looking for someone, what we want to do is we want to look for someone, ideally, that is somewhere on the other side of the spectrum that we are. I'm not saying that it's always true or only true, but it's a fascinating way of looking for someone, because if you, at least, how about this? If you know who you are, you have a much easier time knowing who you're looking for. So if you know that you're someone, let's say, that's more extrovert, probably, I'm not saying for sure, but you're probably going to date someone who's not going to be a good dater. But they'll make a good husband. If you're someone who's an extrovert, if you're someone who's more an extrovert, you're probably going to date someone who's not going to be a good dater, because introverts aren't good daters. But that's okay, because they're very good husbands.
How are they going to get to the marriage if they suck at dating?
Oh, because my next talk is going to be that everything that you do in dating is the opposite of everything you need for marriage.
Dating is not life.
That dating is the opposite of marriage, but that we're going to have to wait for the next talk. We all need each other. We all need different things. And so often, you see, I'll tell you something that the older singles in this room are not going to like, but the younger singles are going to be like, phew. If you're what we call in the frum world, at least, an older single, you're not going to like what I'm about to say.
21 and over?
So, John Gottman, if anyone has ever heard of him, he's a scientist who lives in Seattle, happens to be a frum Jew, but a lot of people don't know that. And he has written some of the most amazing books. There's a book that he wrote called The 7 Habits That Make Marriage Work. I give it to every single couple that I marry. Every single couple that I marry, the first meeting, I hand them that book. It's my favorite book on marriage, and I tell them to read it chapter by chapter out loud together. It's called The 7 Habits That Make Marriage Work by John and Julie Gottman. They have a love lab that you can look them up. I'm not here to give you the that. Huh? 8 Dates is a fantastic book as well. They have a brand new book that also just came out. And what they say is that by the time someone is 30, again, they're talking about in the secular world, so you can decide how this applies to you if you're frum, or if you've been dating frum your whole life. By the time you're 30, you will have met 4 people that you could have married. I told you, some people are not going to like this. I warned you. That was my fair warning.
But what about the soulmate? So what happened? Why did it work?
So I'll tell you why I think. I'll tell you why I think. Hold on. I know. If you want, should I stir the pot a little more?
Conflict, man.
If you want, I can look. I've been known and I've been accused of creating a little too much tension in my life. So I'm gonna tone it down. I decided coming here tonight, not knowing all of you, that I'm gonna tone it down. But if we knew each other very well, we can create and stir up some good conflict. There are so many important things that we need to know in our lives. When it comes to dating, I gave you a nice list here. I only gave you one part of my. I have an entire what I call conscious dating. Some of you in this room actually have taken. I have a course that I give called Conscious Dating. I'm not plugging the course, but if anybody wants to take it, you're welcome to contact me, and I'll put together a group for you. I'm not officially doing it, but I've just been doing small groups of people because I do think that there is a process to dating, and there is what to learn about it. But this is part of that course actually, is this personality and attraction, which you can read here. I'm not going to go through it all. There's a lot here, and there's some stuff that's going to be a good mix up here. I also have a ton of videos on YouTube as well as podcast that has almost every single talk that I've given over the past 12 years. I think there's probably about 700 talks there on relationships if you want to go through them. I just did a wedding not long ago of a guy that was coming to my talks for years. And he told me before his wedding that he had come to 342 talks.
No. We need to do that.
And actually, the wedding for anyone who saw this film that came out, the wedding is actually in that film, and his wife had come to 2. And so he said, why did I have to come to 342 and she came to 2? And I'm like, she's a much faster learner. So if you're someone who needs some time to learn, you're welcome to look at all that stuff. And of course, I'm always available as well. And with that, I want to end the official part of my talk this evening. Yes, of course. Why you want?
I feel like that's what
A lot of people are here for the attraction part. So, by the way, I just want to tell you that if I do skip it because I'm just feeling out the crowd, it's all in this book. My entire philosophy on attraction is right here in this book. It's a beautiful book. And there's even an activity there to try to understand attraction. I also want to tell you there's a very important activity here that you can figure out where you are in the Big Five. Right here. This is a scientific, it's actually, I changed it up with the help of a number of psychologists. I changed it up so it's more kind of geared towards our community because there were issues. The general test that exists on the Big Five doesn't work so much in the Jewish community because of our, let's just say, our focus on neuroticism and other things like that. So, but using some very good researchers and some help, we changed this test. So this is the test that we created. It's got some good stuff on it, and also will help you understand where you fit into what we call the chemical mix. The 5 love languages. I think you have to. The 5 love languages. You don't have to read the book. You just have to know them and know which one. You can't pick all 5. Just pick one, maybe 2. And that's a very important thing. See, these are very good things to know because so often things that we care about when we're looking for someone to marry are so often not the things that we really should be caring about. That's all I'm saying.
You basically look for the most annoying. That's what I'm getting. All right.
Okay. Relax. Okay, there was another 2 questions that I missed before. Somebody asked a question. I want to just honor those questions. What were they? In the middle over there? Some extroverts?
I had a question. It was that if conflict is good, why don't we look for someone exactly like us?
Okay, good. If conflict is good, why don't we look for someone exactly like us? That's what I wanted to get to. And that is because if we look for someone, for example, let's just take one of the 5. If we look for 2, if I am someone who is close to experience, and I look for someone else who's close to experience, the conflict's going to be much greater. I have a much better chance of there being less conflict if the person's on the other side of the spectrum. The conflict, we can't avoid conflict, and conflict is good. But do you want to have an extreme amount of conflict? Again, I'm generalizing here. I wish I could actually take a look. If I was able to take a look at your thing here, then I could tell you specifically what that looks like. I'm going to go back and forth between extroverts and introverts. So I'm going to go back and forth between asking somebody for the question and then I'm going to read a question. How about that? So that way we can honor everybody. I want to be conscious of all different types.
For those who came in late, maybe announce about that they can write questions.
Yeah, you can. If you're not comfortable saying a question, you can write a question.
Don't write on your hand. You can't pass that up.
Thank you.
Here.
Napkins are allowed.
Napkins are allowed. Other things are allowed. I have lots of cards here. I have some napkins here too. Okay. Somebody says, so what is the right way of to date? What is the right way to date? Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have showed that. What is the right way to date? I say Medjool. They're really good. I know. My kids always say I'm a dad and a rabbi. That gives me 2 strikes on the dad jokes. Okay. I have nowhere to rush. Yeah, the night is young and so are we. Maybe, okay, this is a topic all on its own. I will leave it right here. If we have time for it, I will talk about it later, for sure. Okay, somebody with their hand raised. Yes.
Yeah, no, I think a simple way to say it, is that I think people should be similar in the right ways and dissimilar in the right ways.
Similar in the right ways and dissimilar in the right ways. I like that. Absolutely. That's very good. Similar in the right ways and dissimilar in the right ways. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Let's take another question out of here. We got to get to all these questions, so we're going to be here a while. I don't want to leave without honoring you. Aren't you supposed to be a whole person before you go into a marriage? So why say you're only a half? You're a whole half. You see, the problem is, so many of us are not even whole halves. You're like an eighth or a quarter. At least be a half. If you can be a whole, the problem with being a whole is we haven't gotten into, see, I didn't get into some of the more spiritual stuff, which is really important, is that if you're a whole, then there's no space for anyone else in your life. So in order to be a keli, in order to be a vessel for someone else, you need to be a half. You have to, and sometimes that means, especially for people who have been single a little while, that means clearing out half of your closet, sleeping on one side of your bed, sitting at one chair, feeling physically like there's something missing in your life. It happens sometimes, we need that, to feel like there's something physically missing in our life. It happens. So at least be a full half. And if you're more than a half, you got to empty out. You have to make a keli. And there's other ways, in Chassidus and spiritually, there's other ways of making that keli, which we can talk about a little later if we have time. We will make a note to... Okay, now someone with the hand raised. Yeah?
You were saying before that you've probably met, like you've met people that you could...
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain what you meant by that?
That ruffled a lot of feathers.
No, meaning like people that you could have been compatible with in a marriage?
Which means that...
Are we talking about multiple...
So...
Are you talking about dating or just having like walked by them on the street also?
Good question. Very, very good question. So I will give you... I'll give you first I'll give you the scientific answer first. So the question was, I said before that ruffled some feathers about the fact that you, by the time you're 30, you will have met 4 people you could have married. And that means that people who you possibly have dated, especially we're talking about in the secular world, people you have dated, people you have friends. You see a lot of, I believe that a lot of people who you know, and this is a big problem, and I talk a lot to, I don't know how, I know it's a big mixed audience, so I'm just going to be conscious of the fact there's a mixed audience. Not everything I'm going to say here tonight is going to apply to you, because I know some people are more secular, some people are more religious, and I want to acknowledge that. So I may say things here that don't apply to you, so just ignore them. So, because I speak very often mostly to secular audiences. And one of the biggest problems in the secular world today is friend zoning. And so that is essentially what the science is showing. There's a lot of people who people are friend zoning, but they're actually people that they could have a relationship with. And so what I always say when it comes to matchmaking is if you're trying to find someone, don't try to find someone on the other side of the world. First look within yours, the person who you never would have imagined. So often it's the person you never would have imagined. It's like weird, like, no, it's too close to home. It's not always the worst thing in the world. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just giving you an idea here. And the science is proving that it's true that a lot of people, without even realizing it, don't realize that it could be that it's somebody closer to home than you think. And there's a lot more that I could say on it, but that's my my take for now. Huh?
Can you just give us like one more line of what else works? I think it applies to a lot of people.
A lot of people?
More people than you think.
Okay. I think that people should be. I don't know the crowd. I'm just telling you. I don't know most of you. So, if I'm saying something that's going to offend you, I'm extremely sorry, and I'm not sorry at the same time.
Take the gloves off.
Can I take the? I mean, tell me. Someone's going to get offended. I know.
We're the truth. Mostly the same.
I really think that more friends should be setting up friends. I think enough. I think that it's just been not. For some reason. It's not become socially acceptable. It's okay. It's not going to be weird, and if people are looking for relationships, it's for some people that's the way it's going to happen. And the funny thing is, the science is proving that majority of people are not meeting. I mean, okay, today there's so many different ways to meet, but majority of people that are actually getting into serious relationships, it's very random. It's very random. It's like I used to host speed datings. I stopped speed datings. I'll tell you why I stopped speed dating. Because speed dating, every single person who's in that room, so there will be 1 or 2 that will meet. But there's also, for every 1 or 2 that will meet, there's going to be 200 that are going to say, I can't date any of these people. And then, if I were to suggest somebody to them, they're going to say, oh, I met them for 4 minutes. Well, they don't say that. What they say is, no already. No, you don't. You know nothing about them. You saw them for 4 minutes. So that means nothing. So what I like to do now is create shared experiences, especially with more secular people, because that, first of all, takes the meat market element off of it, and then you're doing something together, and you can see how that person interacts in a place where there are different things going on. And so you can see that person in a different dynamic, instead of it being like face-to-face meat market right in your face. So I think that more of these kinds of things, Shabbos dinners are a great way because it takes the pressure off. But I will go back to, I wish that it was more socially acceptable for someone to say, hey, you want to meet somebody, I dated somebody, they're great, not for me, but I think they're good for you. And I think we should take the pressure off of, even in the frum world, that can happen. Even in the very frum world, take the pressure off of these matchmakers. I don't know, I don't want to talk about the matchmakers. I have a lot of thoughts about them, but I won't. Look, I don't see any mashka on the table, but if you get me drunk enough, we can really talk. Okay.
We don't need to be drunk to talk about it.
Okay. Okay. You ready? Are we okay? I feel like as the night goes on, I'm going to have more and more enemies here. What? Okay. Next question here. Discussion on introvert versus extroverts. Regarding the excitement, is there a basis for wanting a bad guy versus a good guy? A.k.a. excitement versus boring guy. Is that a recipe for disaster? My answer to you, yes. Discussion, I'm not going to show the handwriting here because I don't want anyone to see it. This is anonymous. Discussion on introvert versus extrovert. With regards to the excitement, is there a basis for wanting a quote-unquote, there is quotations here, bad guy versus a good guy, a.k.a. excitement versus boring? And is that a recipe for disaster? My answer to that is it depends what kind of person you are. You see, so often, and this is a broader conversation about the part that I didn't get to with regards to making sure that you know attraction. So often our heart wants something that our mind doesn't, and our mind wants something that our heart doesn't. It's really, really important that you have your heart and mind on the same page when you're looking for someone. Because we are attracted, very often we're attracted to somebody who's not good for us. Darn shame. Darn shame. It is moach shawat halev. So that's why I would like you, I like you, ideally, to get into a space where you actually know what you're looking for. So many people don't know, and I'm done with I want someone who's kind and nice and da-da-da-da-da. I don't even know what any of those things mean anymore. I see the same thing. I can just copy and paste on every single thing. Enough with these. Enough already.
How is it wrong something on the lens? Yeah, you need your heart and your mind.
Yes, so that is something, the idea of heart and mind in this conversation about attraction is something that we would have to, I need another 2 hours to be able to, and I do have, we can be here all night if you want, there's no problem. I'm good till 9 a.m. But yes, these are really, I'm really happy. I want to tell you, I do a lot of these, and I very often, the questions that I get are more like superficial. These are really deep and really profound questions, of which so many of these questions we need time to be able to unpack them and to work through them. And it's a very, very big deal. And this idea of mind and heart, because you need to be attracted to the person that you marry. You need to be attracted. But so often, because, I'm going to ruffle some feathers again, warning, because of our society, we do not have a clear image of what we're attracted to, because our society has trained us certain ways. And we are affected by it, no matter where we are. I don't care how religious or not religious you are, it affects everybody. Is that we live in a certain superficial society, and it's trained us a certain way, and it's not helpful for long-term relationships and for marriages. And it's very hard because you still have to be attracted. And that emotional feeling, you can't suppress your emotions. People call me all the time when they are not sure. They're dating someone. Their matchmaker or their mashpia will tell them to call me. Lately I've been getting a lot of calls. They're really uncertain and they'll tell me different things. And at the end of the day, even though I think the person's good for them, if they tell me they're really not attracted to the person,
When they sit around and they write stuff like this.
if they tell me that they're really not attracted, then the answer is no, that you shouldn't continue dating, because that's the reality. So, how to define attraction is a big conversation and something that sometimes needs a lot of help, maybe therapy, maybe mentorship, coaching, to try to understand that, because our society has defined it in a lot of different ways that may or may not be helpful to you.
How would you define it?
I don't like to generalize. The question is, how would I define it? I don't like to generalize. I would define it different ways to different people. The question is how it works for you. And there's hundreds of different ways to define attraction.
How
But-
would you help somebody find out for themselves?
What?
How would somebody find out for themselves? You don't have to generalize from everybody, but is there like a certain set of principles that somebody can apply?
If it's something that's really important, then you'll search for it. I can give you some resources. Yeah. Yes.
Just piggyback on what they were saying.
Yeah.
So what questions could we ask to identify if we're attracted to a person?
What questions can you ask to identify if you're attracted to someone? Number one, if you go to page 4, here's your first resource I'm giving you. It's in your hands. Dating happens in stages. It's very important in the dating process that you know that dating happens in stages. Personality and attraction, values, qualities, and respect, and then emotional bonding. You each have a secret 5-letter code to your personality. Just like real life chemistry, when you meet someone, your codes have a reaction. Either it's cool or hot. Most of the time, a first date will be awkward, and there's no way to unawkwardize a first date. It will be awkward, and you should just know. You should just go on the first date and say, hi, whatever your name is. This is going to be awkward. Let's have the next whatever hours we're going to be, and it's going to be awkward. And then you do another date. If someone I know in New York it's a thing that everyone is doing 1-hour dates. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
I know. If you don't give the person a second, you are not going to be good on the first time. They're not going to be good on the first try. You need to give them another chance. You need to give them another chance. You can't unawkwardize that first meeting.
But don't you want to trust yourself?
Yeah, your gut.
Like, you know when you know.
Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. No. I'm not giving anything away, but the scientifically neurotic people know when they know. But not everybody knows when they know. Sorry. I hope you forgive me. Number 2, values, qualities, and respect. Not everyone we're attracted to is right for us. You have to, at some point, define your values. If you don't know your beliefs, your purpose, those values, those things that are important to you, then you're not going to know what you're really, truly attracted to. You see, there's different levels of attraction. And maybe this is what you want me to get to, is that there's different levels. There's superficial attraction, and then there's deeper attraction. Superficial attraction doesn't create marriages. So yes, in the beginning, there's a certain level of superficial attraction, and there always will remain a certain piece of the pie being superficial attraction. But there's a lot more to attraction. And I'm saying this to purposely the extroverts in the room. When I said before that you're probably going to find somebody who is a good husband but not a good dater, it's because at first that superficial attraction is not going to be good because the introverts have a hard time with that superficial attraction. But because it's only one little piece of the pie, you have to, if you give them a chance, which means your first date, the answer should be, are they repulsive? No, I'm serious. Are they repulsive? Which means, am I interested enough to be able to see them again? That's all that you want to say. It's not, can you stand to see them again? Thank you. Can you stand to see them again? Speaking of which, there's some chairs here. If you're standing, there's some chairs here. Can you? Yes, and that's an important thing because there's so many other parts of attraction that will grow on you. And then eventually, over time, what you really want to get to, and this is what we don't give an opportunity. When we're dating, we're so quick. Everything is instant oatmeal today. We're so quick. I like instant oatmeal. It's fine.
I like that.
Yeah. But what you really want to get to is number 3. It's on the bottom of page 4 here. When we spend time with someone we're both attracted to and respect, we can open up our inner selves and just be. And that is the beginning of an emotional bond which leads to authentic emotional intimacy with someone else. This is what we want. You want to have someone. We're only looking for one thing in life, but it's hard to find that one thing. And that is an end to our loneliness and somebody who thinks we're the greatest thing that ever happened since sliced challah. That's really what we're looking for in our lives. But it takes time because first of all, over time, we have so many barriers. We're like onions. We got to peel away certain, we have barriers, emotional barriers that are blocking us from being able to get into a relationship. But what we're really looking for is our number 3 is this emotional bonding. And that takes time to be able to be comfortable enough to open up to someone. And I want to tell you, according to most of the research, that is 80% of attraction.
Can I say something?
Say something.
There's this new Netflix, not new, but I don't know if you've seen it, Love is Blind.
I've never seen it.
Okay, it's basically people get attracted through a wall, through emotional attraction, but
they're trying to create the emotional attraction without the physical.
Yeah.
Okay.
It fails.
It doesn't always fail.
No, it fails. I'll tell you without even seeing. I'll tell you. I've never seen it, and I don't want to see it. I'll tell you why it fails without even seeing it. And that is because you need those first 2, but you have to remember they're only a small piece of the pie. But you need those first 2 first. You can't just expect to have the emotional bonding. Yeah. It's obviously somebody looked at the research and I have an idea for a show. Yeah. We're gonna do the most important part of relationships without. Yeah. And it doesn't work. But what I will tell you is Shomer Nagia does work. For those of you who Shomer Nagia does work, and there's scientific proof to that, where we confuse love and lust when we touch. So the whole idea, one of the things I really enjoyed during the height of the pandemic is people were forced to meet virtually, and as a result, they saw a little bit of the frum system, and actually, there's some good science behind it. There's really good research that shows that Shomer Nagia is a very good thing because you don't confuse yourself with lust, and it's very hard once that lust factor happens to be able to change that and to move away from that. So, and we can go on. Your general dating story is linear, page 5 here. So every story with a person you date, it has a beginning, a middle, and end. If it gets that far, there's a natural build-up. And this is what should happen as you date. This is how attraction should develop. You know what questions to ask yourself to decide whether or not to continue. That's a very big deal. What are the criteria to decide whether or not to continue dating? And these stages provide an answer. Different times, depending on how far you are, there are specific questions that you ask yourself. We can get into that. Skipping a step can happen, and it'll hurt. Which means jumping ahead is going to create more heartbreak. And if you go look on page, is it there? On page, did I put it in? I may not have put it in. Okay. There's specific questions that you can ask yourself to be able to get there. Well, if you remind me, I can send that to you. I didn't put it in here. But it's part of my conscious dating system. Yeah. Yes.
How do you navigate staying honest and being true to yourself in a system or in a culture which encourages conformity and discourages single life, which I think a lot of us are like involuntarily.
How do you encourage staying true to yourself in a world in a system? You're referring to the shidduch system that encourages a certain conformity.
Until you reach the shidduch system, and it's like, oh, now fit into a mold, so that way you're presentable enough and desirable enough from looking at.
This is I'm the wrong person to ask this question to, because this is part of my challenges I have with the traditional system, of which I'm not. I mean, I understand for some people it's the only way, so I'm not here to say yes or no.
So for the people who are doing it mainly that way, what are your suggestions?
My suggestions are try. So what happens often in that dating system is that there's a lot of meat market, frontal conversation. It's just a lot of conversation. You can have conversation, first date, no problem, meet in a hotel lobby if that's the way it's done. I don't know if that's still the way it's done. I've been out of it for a little while. But meet in a hotel lobby. But then, as fast as you can, change it up. Go for a walk if you can, if it's not too cold out.
Before, like pre-dating, like before you're even
So give me an example of what you're talking about. The resumes?
No, it's like being. I guess I think I know at least I struggle with it, like being told to conform to, to meet, like if you're, I don't know, I'm very artistic, I'm very creative, and I think maybe whatever, like that can come off the wrong way to people, I don't know, off the bat, and or if you're different than like you were saying, like the nice, whatever, sweet person, then people are like, oh, well, it's different, so I don't want it, or maybe not, I don't know, but I don't know, for me, at least in my experience, like I've been told a lot, like, oh, maybe you should be less this or more that.
Right.
Like, how do you stay true to who you are in a system which encourages being a mold?
Right. I think people have become clear that the classroom is good for about 20% of people. It's about the same thing true with the shidduch system. It works very well. It works very, very well for about 20%. Because that is the conformity. So, again, I'm the wrong person to ask this question to, because, and again, I know for a lot of people this is the only way, so I want to honor that. And I don't know if I have an answer, but I would say is try to be yourself as much as possible. I don't think, I think it's it's very hard, and if people are, here's the problem, and this is what I foresee, that if you're not true to yourself, then who's the person going to be marrying? And then what ends up happening is 100%. I'll tell you what I get in what I just had a situation with a, it's interesting that this is coming up, is a situation with a frum couple who she feels like she was robbed because she thought she was getting somebody that she didn't. It's a problem. So I'm going to stand behind, you have to be yourself. And if someone is telling you to conform to a certain way, I don't agree with that. It's hard. I know it's hard. Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer for it. Maybe somebody else can give an answer. I know there's a lot of...
Yes.
I think they try
to
be true to yourself while being cognizant of how you're being perceived.
Okay, let me take some of these. I've got a handful of questions here. Let me take some of these questions here, and then we're don't worry. We have time. What would you recommend for someone who would like to eventually be in a serious relationship, but right now just wants to do more casual dating. Personally, don't clog up the system. Okay, there. You don't need my help to casual dates. Please stay away from people. If someone's serious, stay away from them. Yes.
It's not so much a question, more just like adding on to
Yeah.
your thing. So I can only speak from my end as a girl, but I feel like a lot of the issue in the system is that I agree. Just let their moms be in charge.
Oh my God.
So like, their mom is looking for what the mom wants, not necessarily what the son or daughter wants. So like, that's the issue. And the system
And there's more.
you're judging, like, a lot of times they'll judge on certain things. They have a certain image of what they think they want for their son, and then A, they're judging people for things that may not even be true, and then B, like, not necessarily the person that
Yes. Thank you.
Looks like you have a solution.
Yes.
If you're against the system, how should we go about it differently?
Yeah, don't have your
Let's have a
mom
longer
write your
talk about that
resume.
later. Hold on a second. Wait. I got to read a question. I promise I go back and forth. I'm trying to stay true to my word here. A lot of people say, I have to read people's handwriting. This is already hard on its own. A lot of people say that it's not okay to see someone and right away feel by analyzing quickly. You mean a tenth of a second? Certain attributes and traits about them that you like and feel that they are the one for you. Is this correct? What is your opinion? See, this is what happens. It's such a good question because what ends up happening is a lot of people don't make a good first impression. Think about yourself. Do you like how you look in a picture? Do you like how you look in a first impression? Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. Nobody likes how they look. Nobody likes their first impression. And so I think a lot of people, you're not looking for someone to marry when you are looking. When you are on first meeting someone, you're not looking for someone to marry. That's the wrong kind of thinking that you should have. You want to know, I saw this person, I had a date with them, is this interesting? Am I interested? I'll tell you a secret. Because this is actually one thing that dating could be similar to marriage. Do you know what the number one, according to most of the studies, the number one ingredient in a long-lasting relationship is? Respect, sacrifice, honesty, loyalty,
Communication.
interest, patience,
continuous
communication, continuous
I saw that YouTube Facebook video.
progress. What?
I think I saw that Facebook video.
Yeah, probably.
Honest communication.
Honest communication, commitment.
Yes, sir.
No one said it yet.
Yeah.
Therapy. Oh, I love that. Wonderful. Attraction. What? Compromise. Huh?
Conflict.
Space. Conflict. Taras mishpacha. Peace.
Like, do you need to like her?
Yeah, trust.
Trust.
Respect.
No one said it yet. Honesty.
Have everything.
Everything, man.
By the way, trust is really important. Trust is really important, but it takes to develop trust in a long-lasting relationship. There's different levels of trust. A year and a half. This is generalizing. Year and a half, 3 years, 7 years. But it really takes 7 years to develop trust. So we can't say that's the number one ingredient today in a long-lasting relationship. It takes time. But no one said it yet. What? Quality time? No.
Willing to change?
Willing to change? Not number one. Compromise? Wonderful, but not number one. What is the single ingredient that you can know today in a long-lasting and healthy relationship? Vulnerability. Wonderful. Patience. Humility. Okay. I have a question for you. God. Oh, God.
Wait, that doesn't include everything.
What?
Willing to change.
Good.
Willing to put in the work.
Willing to put in the word. Commitment. Wonderful. They're all wonderful. Okay. Let's go on to the next question. I just want to know one thing. If I tell you the answer, would it matter?
Yes!
Why? What if we leave tonight and you never heard the answer?
Well, and then
Guess what? We're not leaving.
How much do you want to know the answer?
Alright, Simon up to the chorus.
How much do you want to know the answer? How much? Okay, let's go on. Thank you.
there's no answer.
That is the answer.
What?
The answer is curiosity. Because when you're curious, you want to know more. When you're curious, you're more interested. When you're curious, you move closer. When you're curious, curiosity is the single ingredient that you can have today that will help you in a long-lasting and healthy relationship. You want to know after your first date, am I curious? That's it. If you're curious, and it may not happen, you may finish that date and you're like, I got to think about it. Think about it. Take your time. Sleep on it. But if you are still curious, if you're not curious about anything, and I'm going to say this and I'm going to ruffle some feathers because I'm saying this, and I know, you know when I say ruffle feathers, you know what that means. Some people are going to hate me for this. But there are some people who are not curious about anything. If you're not curious about anything, you're in trouble. You need therapy. If you're curious about everything, it's much better than being curious about nothing. Curious about everything, we can work with you. Just we can relax you, we can calm you down. But if you're curious about nothing, you're in trouble. And until you're curious about something, you got to figure it out. Don't clog up the system.
What that note is asking is based on them actually being curious to know them more, to know that person that they feel.
But what I'm saying is that you don't have to look, is this person for me? Am I going to marry them? You're jumping 50 steps ahead. Just ask, am I curious? Do I want to know more? Is that interesting to me? Now, very often on a first date, people aren't showing their real true self, so they don't have that. You don't have that. You don't leave with that curiosity. So that's why I say at a first date, the answer on a first date should be, what I said, does this person not repulse me? Somebody else said a better line than repulse. Can I stand them? Thank you. After the first date is, can I stand them? After the second date is, am I curious?
What if, you could what if you're not meeting them on a date, you're just, spontaneously, saw them, and you're like, oh my gosh,
if you're curious, good. Good, but then there's other elements. Remember, that's only 10%.
Yeah, you're like, don't go be blind.
That's only 10%. Yeah. I'll get you because you asked already before. That's why Don't worry. We have a long night. We'll be here until everybody leaves.
Serious? You get you something?
That's okay. We're good. Yes.
There's a cup of water here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You mentioned before loneliness, marriage and loneliness. There are some people who feel like they're opposed to that. It's like, why are you getting married? Why are you getting married to end your loneliness? That sounds unhealthy. But then there are some people who get married and have everything in the world.
And they're still lonely.
So can you explain what you mean by that?
Thank you. I want to thank you for stating that because we should really clarify. The question was, there are some people who would be upset by me saying that you get married to end loneliness because that's not a good thing. And there are some people who are married and lonely. So what am I really saying? That you get married, when I say you get married to end your loneliness. There's a lot of people who are really, really full of themselves. There's a lot of themselves. And they get to a point where enough with me. That is a point where you can be married because you have to allow space. What I'm saying is that you have to allow space for someone else in your life. If you're really full of yourself, then you have to empty a little bit of yourself in order to allow that space. There are people who are married and lonely, and that's a different conversation, and I'm very sorry for them, but I'm generalizing here, but a lot of the not being curious about anything correlates often with being married and lonely.
You have to connect with yourself before you can connect.
I hope you understood what I said there. Okay. Does Hashem knock shidduchim if they are not meant for you? And if Hashem is completely involved in making matches, why do some people that are married, but then after 34 years they get divorced? And how can we say that they were bashert? Okay. Okay. It's a lot of pressure. I'm feeling for Hashem right now. It's a lot of pressure on Hashem. It's a lot of pressure. So it happens that some people can get married to their basherets, but because of certain things that are not always in their control, sometimes it happens before they're married, sometimes after, some things are in their control, they can't live together. It doesn't mean that you're not basheret if after 34 years you get divorced. But I will tell you something that's very important. Today, it's a much bigger issue that a lot of people today are coming from divorced homes. And when I say divorced homes, sometimes, especially since I'm speaking to a primarily a group of people here that are raised in religious homes, and divorce for a long time or in a certain era, I'm trying to say this nicely, is shunned. So a lot of people were really divorced but stayed married.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were raised in divorced homes even though their parents were married. Did I say that nice enough?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. And so the studies show that there's three simple steps you can do if you come from a divorced home or you come from a home of which there was not a happy marriage. You have to do three things. Number one, you have to say, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's never your fault. It had nothing to do with you. Your parents' marriage has nothing to do with you. Your parents got married when you're young. A lot of young people, especially if your parents got divorced before you were a certain age, you're at a certain... You think that it's your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You got to just convince yourself, I don't care if you make it up, just it's not your fault. Number two is you have to ask yourself, number one is you have to ask yourself, why did they get divorced? That's number one. And who do you ask why they got divorced? Not your parents, yourself. You have to create a narrative for the divorce, even or the unhappiness. Then you have to say it's not your fault. Let me try that again. Narrative for unhappiness, it's not your fault. And then you have to have, and Baruch Hashem, there's people in your life, you have to have a physical image of a couple who you say this is a happy marriage. And if you can, interview them. And learn about a happy marriage.
Sorry, Rabbi.
Yes.
Did someone park a Tesla in someone else's driveway and they're trying to get out? Everyone here has a Model X.
Yeah, it's mine. Yeah, it's mine.
Single, bunch of singles in a room. Did someone park a Maserati?
Is it red?
Yes. Whoever hired that guy, that was great.
I wish I could have done
I know that. Whoever did that was slick. Okay.
She walked out.
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah. Now I feel like I'm in New York. This is really New York. Huh?
Welcome.
Yeah. Wow, okay. If you're an extrovert and your goals in life require, if you're an extrovert and your goals in life require the help of an extroverted person, how would that work?
Get a business partner.
I really hope, I would have to take a look at those goals. the first thing I would say to you is I would like to see those goals, because very often those goals are based on things that are not that do not matter for marriage and for relationships.
What doesn't matter for marriage or relationships?
What doesn't? Entrepreneurial goals.
Or what if that person, it's like their passion, their life, their dreams?
So you want someone who's going to help. So if I know I met a rapper, and it's in a movie, so you can see it. There's a documentary, and in the documentary, I meet this rapper, and the rapper is looking for a stylist. He wants to marry a stylist because he thinks that's going to be good for his image. Well, if you want, get a stylist. What do you need to get married to a stylist for?
Yeah, but Rabbi, what happens if his goal is like the guy wants to go on shlichus and something? So like an extroverted girl will help him with that, no?
Or not. What do you mean? Shlichus. You can be an introvert and be on shlichus too. It's not a problem. There's so many things in life. I think that again. Hold on. The truth is here, and I don't want to shut down this particular conversation, but I would say we're generalizing something that can't be generalized, and that's why everything you're going to say is going to be correct, but it's a specific thing for a specific person. So what I'm saying to that person is, I want to see your goals. It could be your goals are true. Now, if your goals are true, then it could be that you are. Let's pretend. I remember, and it's back here in your book, on the spectrum of 0 to 40. That 40 is extroverted, like. 40 is, okay, I'll tell you, I'm a 39. Okay? Yeah, an extrovert. So 40 is like extreme extroverts. A 40 or 39 in extreme, I know, I don't look like a 39 extrovert. I know, well, that's what I think I am. It's true.
Yeah. By the way, it's like, you write whatever, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
That's so true.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I evaluated myself. So, as we say in French, Torah lehergish. So, je ne sais pas. I live in Montreal. So if we say that, let's say 40 is an extreme extrovert, an extreme extrovert could handle someone who's a 24, a 25, maybe not a 40. But a 25, yes. So someone who's on the extroverted side, but not extreme extrovert. So that's important. That's why we like this spectrum, because it really helps a lot. And an extreme extrovert could marry someone who's also extrovert, but not extreme extrovert. An extreme introvert can marry someone who's also introvert, but not extreme introvert. It's going to create way too much conflict, or it'll be like a brother-sister relationship. If they're too similar on that spectrum. I want to be conscious over here because we are officially at our ending time. Are we okay? Is everybody okay? If you need to leave, you have permission to leave. If you have to go home, go home. It's okay. Tomorrow's another day. What? Well, I don't know if the recording's going to go anywhere. What?
Rabbi, you need to do it at the 2-minute intermission. Whoever wants to go or whatever.
Should we take a little break, or should we? Or the break? It's going to kill the vibe. It's going to kill the vibe. Okay.
No break. I guarantee it.
Okay.
So here,
I heard a saying, "No sleep till Brooklyn," so we're good.
We'll have a break in an hour.
Yes.
All right. My question is actually branching off of another person's question.
Yeah.
But you said that the shidduch system doesn't work for 20% only works for 20% of people.
Yes.
So.
Well, I'm just
And
generalized.
you also said that friends should be setting up more friends. How do you suggest the proper way to do that in a way where it's respectful of both people as well as respectful of the friend? Because most of the time, if you're in a group of, let's say, boys and girls, and they're all single, but you ship two friends, let's say, then how do you do that?
So I'll tell you, first of all, I want to acknowledge, for me at least, how special this is, because I'm aware of the shidduch system and I have interaction with the shidduch system, but there needs to be a conversation. I don't know if anyone's having conversations like this, and there needs to be. I don't know if we can decide these answers. They're very complicated answers. What I will say is, interestingly enough, I don't even know the person. Random people call me all the time to ask me particular things. They're mashpiyim. We'll give them my number, and they'll call me up and say it's kind of like I've become like this anonymous hotline. And they'll start off by saying, this and this person gave me your number, so I know it came from this and this mashpia. Okay, so yes, I'm in the middle of going out with this person. What do I do? And they said that you'll be able to handle it. Okay, so literally, I'm getting like probably, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 30 of these 5-minute calls a day now.
A day?
Yeah. Hold on a second. Why I'm telling you this is recently I got a random call. And the call was like this. There was a particular situation. So I said to that person, I think the shadchan should be handling this. Why are you calling me? And they said, well, actually, 2 friends set us up and there is no shadchan. So I'm thinking out loud with you now and saying, well, in that case, I think what should have happened is there should be people who are like, maybe they are, go to shadchanim, where if you want to set up your friends, there needs to be someone in between, because that was a very serious issue that they were dealing with that could have been very easily avoided if their professional was involved from day one. Well, I don't know. I don't know what's really going on. I'm okay.
We
gotta catch you up.
Okay, no, that's not okay. So that's not. Let's just. Okay, let me. Well, okay, that's an introducer. So there's 2 different types of people when it comes to a shidduch. Let me be very clear about this. What a shadchan is. Maybe you and I have different interpretations. People call themselves shadchanim. That's not what. Okay, there's an introducer. Introducer is someone who says these 2 people should go together. Then there is someone who needs to coach those 2 people. There's in a relationship, I believe, in the shidduch system. This is my take on it, based on loosely on many letters that I've read, and the Rebbe's view on this as well. That there should be 3 people involved in the shidduch. There should be a shadchan, and each side should have a mashpia, should have someone. Personally, from my experience, I think there should be a mashpia and a friend. You need someone to bounce off, who's an equal, to bounce it off. And there should be someone who's a superior, who you can take advice from and you'll listen to. And then the shadchan's job is to push the date along. They have to believe the greatest thing that happened since chicken soup is getting these 2 people married. They must believe it. There needs to be someone in the picture that really, truly believes that. And there's a certain personality. I mean, I can probably play it on TV. What?
Push
yes.
it along, huh?
They got to push it along. That's their job. Why? Because. Okay, maybe I'm saying it too aggressive. It doesn't have.
It's a bad word.
It doesn't have to be too aggressive.
Yeah, you can word it.
I'm saying it's somebody. Maybe it's coming off as aggressive. I'm not. It's somebody who really believes that these 2 people should be together, and they need to have people that they talk to on either side who are giving them. But the relationship needs in the shidduch system needs all these components in order to work. So that's the shadchan. The shadchan is not just an introducer. Introducer is introducer. The shadchan is someone who they're a professional. They're professionals who I train shadchanim. It's one of the things that I do. And so if you don't know someone who can do this, I know professionals who are very good at that. You give them over, you introduce 2 people, and you give it over to them, and they understand. I'm being very aggressive about it, but it's not aggressive. They understand the process of 2 people being together, and they will. And sometimes a good shadchan will say, "I don't think these people should be together. I don't want to take this on," because they have to really believe that these 2 people should be together.
How do they know that
should,
these
or
people
they could.
belong together if they're just looking at resumes? I also don't feel like right now shadchanim don't think of ideas that they think would be good together. They just send people resumes and they're like, oh, you decide.
I don't know. Look, okay, you have a nose kind of thing.
Yeah. Because they don't know who they're setting up with. Like they just set them up.
What? I don't know. Okay, we have a lot to talk about.
What makes a shadchan
professional.
That's a good question.
Because
All right, back.
yeah.
If they meet you under shidduchim,
Yeah, why?
Being what I say when somebody when someone signs up for our training to get, you have to have two things. You have to really think that making shidduchim is the greatest thing because we're doing Hashem's work. You have to really believe in it, and you have to have intuition. Everything else is a skill. We can teach everything else. So I don't know who these people are. I can't tell you a particular person, but if a person went through a training or they have the experience to be able to know how to professionally deal with something, then, I mean, it doesn't always have to be that they have to be secular professionals. There are skills. There are skills. I have an entire 80-page book that my shotgun training, when we do shotgun training, that they get. It's a serious training.
Can you give us examples on that?
It's a lot. There's a lot. Yeah, we teach the skill of matchmaking.
If they're helping us, we should know what they're going to be helping us with.
We can talk. Okay, look, I'm not going anywhere. We're here till tomorrow morning. Okay, I want to just get someone through. Hold on a second. Yes, we'll get to him in a second. Should shidduch resumes have pics? Should you push yourself to go out with them, even if you're not attracted to the picture? I believe that I believe, this is my personal opinion, stays right here with me. I believe shidduch resumes, if this is the system that is used, we can't change and the whole system overnight. It should still have pics, but you should not judge the person on the pic, because I don't like the way they look on a pic. Probably most everybody else in this room doesn't look like the way they look on a pic.
If you're choosing the picture for your shidduch resume, you should like the picture.
But what if you don't like any picture of yourself?
They should take a professional picture. There's no. you can take a professional picture. If you're not putting in the little effort to take a professional picture, that means.
Some people's personality, you see.
What's the question over here? There was a question over here.
What's the next step?
Make an app.
Let's have a conversation. People do get married, so it's working for people. So you can get married. Oh, here's something very important. I'm going to ruffle a few feathers, but I want to say this because I think it's an important thing to say. If you are using a dating system and you don't believe in it, don't use it.
You should put like maybe call me like your house's number.
Yes.
I saw it in Spot. A guy actually has a resume and there's like little numbers.
I think that's really nice. I'm sure he found somebody. He probably found somebody. Because if you're crazy enough to do that, there's somebody crazy enough to pull that paper. That's a level of desperation that's pretty amazing. I think I know who that person is actually, and he did find somebody. Yeah.
Sure.
What? No. Advice for someone who's about to start dating. Wow. I'm amazed here tonight because is no one? Can I ask just an honest question? Because I don't live in Crown Heights. I'm not from here. Is no one talking about this stuff?
No.
This is it, man.
No. Well, I mean, we talk about it, but like the...
Nobody's... How is it possible? This is Crown Heights. There must be like 1 million speakers talking about all this stuff.
No, they don't.
No, only you.
Yes.
Rabbi, this is it. To put this together and make one science. That's the dialogue.
On CLL, they post
I understand. What I'm talking about here tonight is new to you?
Yes. 100% new.
This is different?
Rabbi, everyone's just winging it. Everyone's just winging it.
Yeah, that's why we're still here.
Are there... What do you mean? I always see this... There's like a shidduch house and this and that, and then there's lists of people and Shazchanim. Isn't Crown Heights like the epicenter of...
No one's going to...
Rabbi, we're winging it.
No, I don't think anyone wants to go to the shidduch house because it just seems like...
I'm telling you, something.
Am I in the wrong place? No, I'm saying, but maybe
Suggested.
maybe I should spend a little more time in Crown Heights.
Yeah, you should come
Wow. I thought for sure there's come on now. You're
We're not.
The moms will hit the street soon. Either you do something or the moms.
Oh no, we don't want the moms. Anything but the moms. Neuroticism at its best. Wow. This is amazing. I'm
Crisis.
You're at the epicenter.
No, because
Epicenter of it.
it's kind of, I feel like it's like a little flower blooming of like, now we're understanding what the crisis is really all about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a crisis. It's just a crisis of people that are not, yeah. I'll tell you, I'll bare my soul a little bit because this is a brand new thing. I've been doing this for 15 years. 15 years I've been doing this. For the first 10 years, I only dealt in the secular world. I was only dealing, most of the setups I did, I just felt like the intermarriage rate is so high that every single time I can get somebody in a secular person dating a Jew, then I know that 2 Jews are dating, then it's at least I'm doing good. Like that was what I was doing for 10 years. And then all of a sudden, something recently happened where all of these, I want to just tell you, these mashpiyim that are sending people to me, they don't even know my name. They just know my number. I'm not joking.
Talk to the guy.
And they don't even, there's all, and then I keep on asking my wife, like, why am I the one getting, is there anyone else that can get these calls? Like, why am I the one getting these calls? I don't want to get these calls.
You take a very traditional but not traditional approach. A lot of these people that you speak about take the full-on traditional closed-minded approach, and a lot of people here do not relate to that. And it's just
Wow. I am. We can farbrang about this. I am absolutely blown away. I'm sorry and I'm happy at the same time because there's ways of dealing. Look.
When are you in town until? Farbrang.
I'm here.
This isn't for me.
This is it. This is it. I have a whole thick farbrengen right here.
Information we just gave you, with information we just gave you, what are you going to do different?
Just make this a weekly thing.
Inreach. Dedicate yourself to Inreach.
What are you
Well, I'm really happy that I'm answering the calls that I'm answering, and I will continue to at least be able to be there as much as I can. I have to think about a way. I have to think about a way to be able to do it a lot more than I'm doing. That's what I'm thinking about right now, and I don't have an answer at this moment. I started by doing this, by doing this course, or I started doing over the course of the pandemic. I did every week. I know some of you I think were attending on Zoom. Maybe you were, but I was doing every week. I was inviting different guests, and I was doing something about relationships every week. And then it just kind of grew and grew and grew, and that became pretty big. Then I realized that there had to be something else more than just information, because education, I think, is the most important. The more you know, and nobody can take that away from you. Then I realized that there weren't good avenues, so I did start a database, which is now, I bought eHarmony software, had a bunch of social scientists and rabbis look at it and redefine it for Jewish people. And so there's an AI system that we just created that is actually people can, what?
Find the perfect match with you.
And so what it does is it helps, the idea behind it is it helps shadchanim be able, through AI, to be able to not be guessing anymore. Because a lot of shadchanim that don't have that intuition, or you don't see the person, or just a profile, so somebody can put in the information, the more information you put into that system, it learns an individual, and it can actually make an ad.
60% girls or 70% girls and like 30% guys.
It's right now 60% guys and 40% girls, right now.
Usually it's the opposite.
So what I did was, if you want to know, I'm answering your question. Then Then I went to all of the current systems that existed, and anyone who wanted to get in, we created a portal for them to get in. So now there's 72,000 singles that are now on different systems that are attached to this new technology. So if you have your profile on any site, unfortunately Chabad Match didn't sign on with us, but anyone besides Chabad Match, basically. They, of course, Chabad, one of the things I learned about Chabad is everyone knows better.
And everyone knows everything.
So I don't know how to, I can't get over the Chabad issue that everyone knows better. I definitely don't know better. I just try to learn from those who know and be able to pick up whatever information I can pick up, because there's really, really great people. Even in the frum world, I want to tell you, on the way here tonight on the plane, I read an amazing book on dating by a frum matchmaker and dating coach named Eliza Ben Shalom. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She's unbelievable. And this Get Real, Get Married book, it's a very book. I read the entire thing on the plane here. That's how easy it is to read. And she had amazing stuff. It's all 100% kosher. There's some really good things, even some spiritual things that I think people should know. So there's a lot of really great stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff out there in the secular world, a lot of stuff out there in the frum world. It's just about kind of curating it and putting it together. So then what happened was, once we created the system, we started getting a lot of matchmakers on there, because it's not an open system, it's a closed system. It's only matchmakers. There's a criteria for being a matchmaker. The problem is matchmakers started getting very click happy.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Because they started seeing the AI and they were clicking and making matches with this AI, and it wasn't working. And you had many people that were going out at the same time. And so now, my next thing was, now we have to figure out who can use the system and who can't use the system, because we don't want click-happy people that are just pressing buttons using the system. We want real people who are doing real things. So we created we're now this Matchmaker Training Institute. We're training matchmakers, and only they can use the system. And a lot of more people are signing up. It hasn't taken off, unfortunately, in the Chabad world, but in the modern Orthodox and in the Litvish and Yeshivish world, it's taken off quite a bit.
You should definitely do Chabad.
And so now I'm listening to other issues, and I will see, I'm processing some of the stuff I heard here tonight. And I don't know what to do about it, but I have to do something about it, because it's my own community, and I feel like I've helped a lot of other communities, but not my own. So I'm very happy to be here and to do whatever I can to be able to help my own community. I hope that...
Oh, it did. I think you're going to do an amazing job. Everyone clap for this wonderful
Yes. Okay. Yeah. You got a question?
Yeah.
There was a question there. Okay, we'll go back and... Okay, I'm trying to get to everybody. If you already asked a question, try to make space for someone else. Did you ask a question already?
No.
Okay, yes.
So, tell me if I'm wrong, this is for like a personal curiosity. I feel like for girls, someone's personality, they can go on a few dates and be like, oh, I find myself growing more attracted to this person, and I'm okay with that. But I'm curious for guys, do you think that there is a difference in that first interaction, locking in this person, seeing someone as like attractive or not? Do you think it's possible to, for my theory, for girls, that a guy can go from unattractive to attractive? Do you think it's possible or likely that a guy can meet a girl from attractive?
It's a very good question. I really shy away from generalizations, because it's very specific for specific people. But if you're asking me to generalize, you're right. I think that the other 80% is much easier for women to move to the other 80% of attraction, and much harder for men. Yes. And I think that the first 10% has to be, if a guy will call me and I will ask, saying they're having trouble, my first question is, are you attracted? If they don't know what that means, I will ask them very specific questions about specific things to try to see if I can get the answer out of them. And if after those questions they still say no, I say call it off. Because for a guy, there has to be a certain sense of physical attraction. It's very important. For women, again, I'm generalizing, but for women, not as much. Because there's other elements that would create that attraction. I want to just go to the side. I will come back. Yes?
Rabbi, do you believe in zodiac signs?
Zodiac signs?
Oh, yeah, that's the juice.
You like that question?
I like that. I think that there's a lot of, I don't have to believe in it. There's a lot of zodiac within Judaism.
The first question
There's a book that talks about zodiac signs.
There's very wonderful
Really
things.
good.
There's very wonderful things. You have to just, and I started off tonight by saying, for every non-negotiable you have, you're negotiating a lot of things. So if you're going to use zodiac signs as your non-negotiable, what else are you negotiating on? Because you can't non-negotiable everything. There has to be, for every value, there has to be a weakness. For every non-negotiable, there has to be a negotiable. If you start, well, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and people have this laundry, so one of the things that I do, I'm going to take away some of the curiosity element of it for you, but I'll tell you, one of the things that I do is people come to me, and they have this long laundry list of what they're looking for. It's like, I can't believe some of this stuff. It's like this and this. And that all is going to matter in your life. It's really going to matter in your life. Like, okay, sure. And then I asked them one simple question. Who are you and what do you bring to the relationship? And there's like 5 things there. I'm like, oh, there's 5 things there? Good. You can pick 5 things from your list on the other side. There's 10 things there? You can pick 10 things from the list on the other side. If you have 2 pieces of paper, the person you are and the person you're looking for, and you put them right next to each other, and ask yourself a very down-to-earth, simple, straightforward, honest question. Can these 2 people be married? You can answer it yourself. The person you are and the person you're looking for need to be married. If they don't work, you now know the beginning of the problem. Happy birthday. Yes. I'm sorry, I know there was other people that had their hand raised before, but...
So, knowing that the shidduch system has all these shortcomings and ways we can slip through the cracks and ways we can misunderstand things and just all the problems, how do we still go out into it and somehow have faith in it, despite all these things?
Curiosity. If you're getting dates, then it's working for you. If you're not getting dates, then do everything you can to get dates.
What are some things you can do together?
There are lots of other shidduch systems. You are all welcome. I'm not. My goal here tonight was not to. If I can help you, I will be very happy to help you. Use my system. There's a lot of other systems that are using my system, but you can use my system. My system is jmontreal.com, but it's open. You can put New York there. There's already, if you have profiles in other systems, they're probably already there. But you can make a profile there. You can use marketing code Rabbi's Gift, one word, and it's free, completely free. Put it in there. I will do my best to get either myself or there's now about 32 matchmakers, and I'll get somebody on your case. If I can help with that, that's good. I'm just, just put yourself on jmontreal.com. Yeah. Huh?
You gotta move to Montreal.
No. It's not only Montreal. There's a lot of people in New York on there already.
You gotta change the name.
What?
You gotta change the name.
I started it off initially for my own community, and obviously, as you can see, it's branched off, and I'm not sure exactly. It's kind of taken a life of its own, and even, but it's had a tremendous amount of success already. And what it is it's matchmakers using AI. And we try very hard for there to be real people. Exactly what it's not perfect, but I definitely think it's better. So I don't know what else is out there. I don't know what other systems are working or not working, but if you're not getting dates from those systems, I feel like maybe one of my goals is after we're done with this here tonight, I'm just going to pull out my computer and you guys will make profiles and I will get you all dates. If you haven't gotten a date, you need a date, and there's a lot of people out there, and there's no reason. Someone's got to make that happen. So if you need me to help make that happen, I'll make it happen. I can't promise anything, but I will do my best. I'm going to go to this side, and I'll come back. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say that what you were saying about this AI, it's amazing because I was literally thinking about this very same concept like for a week already. I've been speaking about it with a friend and how you train the AI and everything. Kind of really got into stuff with OpenAI.com and all that.
Yeah, that's what we used. We used OpenAI.com. Very good. Yeah.
And I was actually
it's a values-based system.
Yeah. And I was thinking about the way you would train it because you, as they say in computer science, basically garbage in, garbage out.
Just so you know, I did not make this. I did not do this AI system. You need an introvert to do this, because this was not me. But I understood. I had the idea behind it, but someone else actually did it. Yes.
So yeah, aside from that, I mean, there's a lot of stuff which I'm thinking like if there's a lot of ideas I had, I would love to talk to you after.
I'm available.
And stuff like that. We'll speak after.
By the way, all my contact information is in this book, so you can. I'm not hard to get a hold of. Usually, I try at least not to be hard to get a hold of, even though recently people have been saying I'm a little harder to get a hold of.
So my question is like this. So you said that generally you want somebody who's kind of generally on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Right. Because then you have curiosity, you have conflict, things, you have something happen. And also you can't be too similar because then you'll just be at each other's throats then.
Right.
Right. Now, what I want to understand here is that sometimes, I would think, let's say I want someone that we can relate to each other, right? So, for example, if two people are party animals, right, then they can relate to each other, or things like that, right? Or, for example, somebody who likes intellectual things, right? And you would want, maybe you want someone you can actually discuss intellectual things.
I'll tell you something that a lot of people in the conventional system are not going to like me saying, but the science is showing that where you're headed is more important than where you're from. That's what the science is showing now. Where your trajectory is more important than where you're from. I know, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important. That's something that hasn't filtered its way into the shidduch system yet, because pedigree, unfortunately, is still.
But aside from that, like, what is it? What kind of degree? Again, what I'm asking is, you need to have a certain form of. I feel you need to have a certain form of being able to relate to each other. Right, and in order to be able to relate to each other, you have to be at least similar in some way.
Yeah.
So how would you do that? I mean, that kind of concept.
The similarities will. You're not okay. So thank you for this. What I told you here tonight was very theoretical, but practically, when it comes to the Big Five, if you use the Big Five, it's one of my. There's a couple different secret sauces that I have. This is one of my secret sauces, the Big Five. If you use the Big Five, they're not going to be all different. There's going to be some that are the same, and that's okay. You just have to think, and this is a process that we need to go through together. You have to think which ones are important, and which ones are different. Which ones do I have to have similar, which ones do I have to have different? For example, let's say the basic, extrovert, introvert. Some people don't want, some extroverts don't want introverts, but some introverts don't want extroverts. So, but you have to always, and again, I'm sorry that I'm being so theoretical because it's a public forum, but if we had the opportunity to speak one-on-one, you'd understand what I'm saying here. You have to have a certain amount of non-negotiables and a certain amount of negotiables. You can't have too many non-negotiables and too many negotiables. And there's a fine balance between the two. These are systems that you can use in order to help decipher and find those negotiables and non-negotiables. And I really do think that you're only as good as the half that you are. And if you don't create that half, you don't know what you're looking for, it's going to be very hard to find the right person. And that's what happens where you end up having met possibly the right person, but you didn't know it was the right person. Going back to that other statement I said before. Okay, I want to also get to these, but I'll... in the back, yeah. Yeah. So that's a, so the question was, the Rebbe said that you have to have Mashichas Halev. You have to have a certain, literally means that your heart is, what is it? Drawn. Thank you. Your heart is pulled or drawn towards that person. What does that mean? A lot of what I've been saying tonight: curiosity, interest, and attraction and emotional connectivity. It's very hard if your heart is drawn to too many things or not drawn to anything. It's hard. Today we live in this world where we have this very difficult balance that we have to navigate. Mashichas Halev is a lot of the questions that I get. These random questions that I get that I'm telling you about, a lot of it has to do with Mashichas Halev. No. The Mashichas Halev is all the 100%. But the 10% only is initially. It takes time for the other percentages to come in. It's part of it. It's only one small part of it. One small part of it. Okay. At what point do we call it a night because the room is getting, or we just, some of you wanted to stay here all night? Okay. I always like to end on a high note.
That's what they say about what you're supposed to do on a date. Make sure you end on a high note.
Yeah, so that's what I want. I want this to be. So if tell me when we're done dating here, so that I can.
As long as we get a date too.
Okay.
Could you stand us?
Can I stand you? I can stand you. How do I change what I'm attracted to if what I'm attracted to is toxic? Therapy, therapy. I want to tell you, for those of you who don't know, I know a very good therapist here in Crown Heights, if anybody needs a therapist, who can help exactly with that, whose specialty is that. I call him the secret of Crown Heights, because no one really, he lives here, and he works here, and most people don't know who he is. And he's amazing. He's very hard to get into right now, but I've sent quite a few. I probably fill up his time.
He's hard to get into?
He's a secret, well, because I've basically been sending a lot of people to him. But he's really amazing, and he's here. And
you're not going to provide his name?
I will, if anyone needs him, you can message me. I don't want to say it publicly, but if you need him and he's the right person for you, there's many good therapists in the Jewish world and in the frum world. Thank God we have no shortage of really good therapists. So if you need a recommendation, I'm happy to give you one. Oh.
Sorry, Rabbi. There's a lot of people that may be afraid to go to therapy. What would you say to them?
People who are, I don't want to get it. No one should do anything they don't want to do. I can talk to them and I could try to see if I can encourage them. This is there. Let me read you this question again. If this is something that you relate to, this is something that needs therapy. There's different questions that need therapy. How do I change what I'm attracted to if what I'm attracted to is toxic? If that is something that applies to you, you need therapy.
If what you're attracted to is what?
Toxic.
How do you define that?
Could lack of frustration be considered disagreeableness? Yes. Yes. How would you bring... okay, this is not a proper question. Sorry, I'm only doing rated PG questions here. I'm happy to talk about questions that are not proper questions for public forums privately, but not publicly. How can you tell the difference between your intuition and your Yetzer Hara? This is a great question. And it's such a great question that I think I'm going to do a deep dive on this coming up, because this is something that needs to be really spoken about. I can't give you a 30-second answer on this. This is a really good question. I want to tell you, the level of questions here tonight are unbelievable. Unbelievable. Really unbelievable. This is unbelievable. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm happy that just to be exposed to this. Thank you for being here with me. It's unbelievable. Is physical attraction a main component? If yes, what if you love the personality, but physically it's not developing, even though it's been months already? So this is a really interesting question because it could be that you are dating, you're having a first date over and over and over again. And that's why it's been months already, but it hasn't developed. So there's a process to how dates develop and how attraction develops. There's actually a process to it. I speak about a little bit in the handout that I gave you, but there's a real process to it, and that's what a professional needs to be able to help you handle. So a lot of people will go on many first dates. I had one of these random calls I got last week. They had gone on 10 dates. And after about 5 minutes of understanding the situation that this guy is going through, I realized they went on 10 first dates. They had never gone on a second date. And that's why they were having such a hard time. And I spoke to him about what to do on this next date, and he was the extrovert and she was the introvert, so he had been planning all the dates. She needed to plan a date. He needed to see that she was planning the date. And they needed to do a shared activity of some sort that she planned. So that's very common, I see, with people who are not helping guide the process because a lot of people don't know what to do, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault. They just don't know what to do. They went on 10 first dates. So often you're like, oh, I went on so many dates. How many dates doesn't really matter. What matters is if the date and the relationship is progressing from stage 1 to stage 2. If there is what I call emotional bonding starting to happen. Is it possible for your standards to be too high? Or should you keep saying no until you're attracted to someone? How do you get over what if there's someone better for me feeling? Oh, I love this question. Okay, so let's do the first half of the question. There's some questions that are they're good. So, are your standards too high and should you keep saying no until you are attracted to someone? Yes, your standards are too high, and you're going to keep saying no forever if you don't actually go out with somebody. Because until we figure this out, and I know there's somebody just called me from Crown Heights, and they're trying to do this new system about doing like video profiles, which I don't even think is, whatever. Anyway, I just want to tell you, anyone who is doing anything, I say yes, wonderful and supportive, because there's not enough people doing enough things in this world. So we just say yes to everything. So let's try it out. It'll work, it won't work, but just say yes to everything. Just say yes. Okay, if someone wants to set you up, yes. It's a coffee, yes. Just go. Yeah, I know you're going to have a little bit of emotional reaction and you're going to have to get, okay, so yes is better than no.
There's a movie by Jim Carrey called The Yes Man.
Okay, yes man. Just be a yes man or a yes woman or a yes non-binary. Just be a yes person.
Maybe one comment.
Yeah.
Take one comment on that.
Yeah.
I don't know who said this, but just the idea that the feeling of regret is much worse than rejection.
Yes.
So you never know unless you try.
I love that. I've never heard that, but that's an amazing statement. The feeling of regret is much
far
worse than the feeling of rejection. Yes. So I think that people should be saying yes more times, more often, and actually doing something about it. So you are not going to be able to, what is happening is a lot of people are just clicking profiles, they're saying next. There will always be, even after you're in a serious relationship. In the beginning, a lot of people, I had a situation with, I wouldn't know this because it's so anecdotal because I'm just dealing with this so much now, so I can tell you all these different, so I had a situation recently where a guy is engaged and his mashpia told him to call me. Why? Because he's having buyer's remorse. And he thinks he should call off the engagement. So that was more than a 5-minute conversation. Turned into an hour conversation. But at the end, we came to the conclusion together that there's always going to be somebody better out there. And that's just the reality of his situation.
Simple
is that
science.
the way...
You can't find the best one in the world. There's 8 billion people.
There's no such thing as the best. It's best for you. It's not...
And the rest is work.
And the most important thing is that once you've made that commitment, they are your basheret, they are your soulmate. Don't ask existential questions once you've made the commitment. You ask all the existential questions before you've made the commitment. And what happened is, and it's okay, what happened was he asked her to marry him prematurely. And she really wasn't ready, and he wasn't really ready, but they weren't getting the right advice. And so he needed to just come to terms with the fact that it's his choice and that he is making this choice. And we were able to do that over a number of, he called me back, and we ended up, over a number of sessions, we were able to do that, and he did make that choice for himself. But it was something that happened. It's okay, everything is possible, and this particular situation, he had made that choice before he was really ready for it. And as a result, he needed to just decide for himself that this is really his choice. But there are good questions to ask yourself through the process. And there are also bad questions to ask yourself through the process. Always. There's always doubts.
Do you think this is an example of a good question to ask and a bad question to ask?
It depends on which the good question and bad question depends on which part, which time, who, the dating, the experience, who you are. But there are sometimes, people, what ends up happening is, I'll tell you a generalization. People are asking themselves, can I marry this person when it's too premature to be asking that question? We don't ask the marriage question, the bashert question. It's like this existential romantic idea. If you want a romantic idea, a movie's 2 hours, you get the beginning, middle, and end of the relationship in 2 hours. So you shouldn't be asking the final question until it's ready to ask the final question. You should allow the process of emotional bonding to take place before you start asking these really big, huge questions about the rest of your life. Because it's too much. It's too much. You met the first person. Can I, all of a sudden, you're already on shpilkis and your emotions are all over the place. So you're already having trouble with that. So don't ask yourself more existential questions than you're already, what?
Don't ask the person?
No, don't ask yourself after a date. After a second date or a first date, you shouldn't be asking, can I marry this person? That's too, just allow the process to happen. If I'm telling you anything I've been known to say things that are against what other people say, and I'm sorry to all those people who say those things, but I'm still going to stick to my guns.
I just want to say an anecdote, which I think will kind of back up your point, and you might like it. There was actually one time that I was going to go out with someone, and then somebody else came up who I thought, well, I'll probably like them better. I actually called Rabbi Jacobson, and his response was, he's like, you can tell when you speak to him, like, he's like, okay, you can tell that she's about to tell me. He's like, grow up.
Thank you.
He's like, okay. He says, okay, imagine that, you meet this person, you marry them, and then you see somebody else you think you'll like better.
I like that word. I think I'm going to say, B'Shem Simon Jacobson, grow up. I'm using that all too often now. If you've met one of your 7 soulmates, I don't know, I just want to just make this clear. This whole 7 soulmates, or my favorite one of these kind of myths is if you make 3 shidduchim,
you go to heaven.
Right. So if anyone can find the source for me, I can give out about 33 go to heaven free passes. Whoever finds the source gets the first pass.
First go to heaven.
I will give you 3 of my shidduchim if you find me a source, because I cannot find a source for the life of me. Challenge is on. Because there's always myths. I don't know who said this. I think so. I mean, maybe I don't know where it came from. So
find a source and a contradicting source.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. When you weren't, so if we met one of, so let's just say if you met somebody that you could be married to when you weren't as religious, how can you get over them? And what if the thought of them influences who you are searching for now? That is a fantastic question. This is something I deal with very often in the secular world. There's a lot of people who are dating people they used to date in their head. A lot of people. It's very common. So if you have this issue, you should know this is one of the most common issues that I deal with in the secular world. People dating people in their head, which means you dated somebody and you can't get over them. It means you're still dating them. So either... What?
What if things that they went through with that person left like a mark on them? And that's not necessarily about
It could have been circumstantial. Those things they went through could have been circumstantial. So you have two choices. Either redate them or get rid of them in your head.
Let's say you dated someone for 7 years, right? You did everything with them. You lived with them. You just didn't marry them, right? That's basically, how can you get rid of that? Like anything you've done for the last 7 years is with them. Smell.
But the proof is in the pudding. Where are they now?
It's not me.
I'm saying, where are they now?
They're
For
not
that
together.
hypothetical person asking for a friend.
They're not together.
What?
They're not together.
They're not together.
But
So that's
done.
it. So let it go.
He can't. What do you mean let it go? 7 years of your life. Imagine I tell you right now, let go of the last 7 years of your life.
So 7, it's generally speaking, when you're in a serious relationship, it's a month for every, I say this to a lot of people, it's a month for every year. So it'll take you 7 months to get over it. But at some point, you need to get over it. You have to get over it. They're not with you. It's not a reality. But there are people. And I can tell you, a guy...
Rabbi, I think unless you're neurotic, then it's a year for every month.
A year for every month?
But can't we take
I'm just generalizing, but yes, maybe.
Can't we take a more like compassionate? I would think that maybe you can say, this person I was with for 7 years. That was a substantial, really important part of my life, and I grew a lot from that experience. And I'm really grateful for those 7 years. And I do love that person, and now I'm ready for another stage of my life where something else is going to happen, rather than like.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Like
I'm
accept it and like move on.
I'm going to use a part of myself that I'm not used to using, which is the kind, compassionate side. And I will say, yes, they were so important, and you should write down all the things you learned from those experiences, because those experiences are so important for you. But then move on. Please, don't wear your past on your forehead. Put it over your shoulder. And what you can do is, you can take a really nice cloth bag, a good quality cloth bag, and put all those experiences in there. And you can take a nice, really good, strong rope, and you can tie it to the cloth bag, and take a stick and put it on, and then put it over your shoulder and leave it there. And every so often, you'll take it off your shoulder, and you open it up, and you'll learn from them so you don't repeat them. But leave it over your shoulder. Don't leave it on your forehead. We have to move forward. So, I agree with you. Okay. As the night goes on, okay.
It was on something you said.
Oh yeah.
No, you said that if someone goes on 10 dates, they weren't dating right. But if it's not going anywhere, then how do you say they didn't date right?
If you didn't date right and it didn't go anywhere after 10 dates, remember, you are half of the problem.
No, I say, how does...
I just try to be kind and I have to be very kind. I'm so sorry. I'm really so sorry. It's very hard for me, okay? I can do this. I can play it on TV. What?
how can you say it? It's just not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere.
I'm sorry to say this, but I'm happy that most of the room is out of here, because I have been accused in the past of being too aggressive when I say this statement, but I'm still going to say it because I believe it true. You are the common denominator in all your failed relationships. As soon as you take responsibility for what you do and what you've done, you'll be able to start making changes. But so often, especially for some reason in the dating world, and I'm not saying you, I'm just using you, I'm talking about like some random person asking for a friend.
I said we.
What?
I said we.
We. I'm just saying, because you asked the question, I don't want to...
Speaking for a friend.
I'm speaking for a friend. It's such an important part, and I can't stress this enough, that I don't know why, when it comes to dating, like this initial reaction is, it's not my fault, not my fault. You are half of it.
Can I just say something for all the ones that are hard on ourselves in this? You're also the common denominator for all the times that you did what was good for yourself.
Amen.
That meant ending a relationship.
I will say that too. Thank you. You are also the common denominator for all the times that you did what was good for yourself and ending the relationship, but it's still you. What I'm just saying is that whether it was a negative experience or a positive experience for you, and you're right, there are people that are hard on themselves. Thank you for saying that, because I personally, I need to work on being a little more compassionate. because I see so many things and I see them over and over again. It just gets me really annoyed. But I have to be a little more compassionate. But it's true. It's the same thing. It's about taking responsibility for yourself and saying that I am at least half of whatever I've been. You don't have to blame it 100% on yourself, but you can blame it 50% on yourself. Good and bad. But thank you for that.
Okay, I don't understand that.
Huh?
I don't understand how that relates to 10 first dates.
Because if you're doing that, and you talking about that random person is doing
So
that.
you're getting to know them more. You're getting to know more about them. How's that 10? How's that?
I don't know. I wouldn't know unless I knew the specifics of the relationship. So I couldn't tell you. There's so many questions here. I feel bad that I didn't ask. Let me just, before I answer more questions, I want to just get rid of all the stuff in my hand. Do you think a marriage with two people on two different religious levels is possible? What if one is very religious, the other one is not? What do you think about this and values in common? I'm going to generalize. I don't like to generalize. If the woman is more religious, it probably will work. If the man is more religious, it probably won't work. It's only my anecdotal. There's no research behind it. It's just anecdotal. I see that. This is what I see more often. I think it's much harder if he's more religious than her. Is it possible to be a balanced person within reason and seek out a similar balanced person? Yes. I guess the person was talking about the big five. Yes, it is possible. Isn't there a need to create boundaries in regards to being influenced and being an individual? You said there's a benefit in opposites to balance the relationship. Are there benefits for people who are the same? Do you think a full 50% of yourself should be realized but understood before marriage? Yes. I think that people were taking that statement a little too literally. I think a lot of people were taking that statement a little too literally, and I'd like to loosen that a little bit and say that different strokes for different folks, and I think it's really important to be able to see the nuance within that. And if you need help, if you are not clear about that, then you need to have a one-on-one with somebody who can help you do that. If I'm available, I'm happy to do that. If not, I can definitely refer somebody who can. How would you evaluate your date's personality? What are the key things to look for in a date's personality? That is a great question for a specific person, for a specific situation. There's no way to generalize an answer on that. But that is a good question for a particular person. Like if somebody called me and we would go through maybe if they've dated before, we'll go through things they liked and didn't like. We can get through this. We can figure it out. What?
I wrote that one. Okay. That's fine. That was answered.
That was answered? Okay, I have 4 more here. How do you know what's keeping you stuck? When should you consider therapy and look at wounds? It's a really good question. I think that if you're asking the question, that's a really good thing. That means that you're curious about the future. If you're asking it, it's worth one session. Nobody said you have to be in therapy for the next 10 years. But having a session with a professional is an incredible thing, especially if you're someone who's frum. There are frum professionals who live in the standards of true Torah values. You don't have to compromise. And I'm saying this because a lot of marriage therapists have been divorced in the secular world. Good marriage therapists. If you have been, in my opinion, if you've been divorced 3 times, you are a bad marriage therapist.
Oh yeah. Maybe they can tell you what doesn't work.
What?
Yeah.
John Gottman been divorced.
And he will not do therapy.
Oh.
He will not give. He does science.
I mean, the shoemaker goes barefoot.
Yes, but what I'm saying is there's ample amount of really, really good therapists in the frum world who live Torah true values, and that's something that's very important to me. And they are pro-marriage. They believe in marriage, and that's a really important value that a therapist needs. For some reason, there's a lot of therapists that become tainted towards marriage. Maybe because they see, maybe it's the mother-in-law issue. The mother-in-law issue is when the daughter always comes to the mother about all the terrible things going on in her relationship, so she thinks the guy is terrible. This is like the classic mother-in-law issue. So maybe all these therapists are seeing all the terrible things, so they just get tainted by marriage.
Selection bias.
Selection bias, yes. So there definitely is. There definitely are people who are really pro-marriage that I can refer you to with pleasure. What's the difference between a nice guy and a kind guy? Should I be nice or kind? See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know what the definition of either of those two words are, and that's why I think neither of them should be used. And no one knows the definition, which is why they should not be used in any profile or anything having to do to describe yourself or anyone else. We're good with that? Thank you.
Is it the characteristic you don't?
It is different.
It's just so vague.
You're saying more specific.
Yes. Like Eliezer, if she asks me if I want to drink and then asks my camels too, that is a particular type of kindness that we can...
Yeah. Like, can you say like a giving person?
Yes, somebody who is chivalrous, somebody who is giving, somebody, yes, that's much more descriptive than kind.
Or you can say kind and follow it up with a description of what you mean.
Absolutely, I would have no problem with that. But just keep it to yourself. No, I mean, like what I would say is like make that list and then put it in a place for safekeeping, and then come.
And then burn it.
No, but one of the things I recommend is you make that list, and I can go through like the list of what you're looking for, and then you put it away. Don't look at it, and then before you get engaged, you pull it out and you make sure that the person you actually is in front of you has some of those values that you wanted before. That's what you do with that.
Isn't that too late already?
No, it's not too late. That it gives you that kind of confidence, because they will. I'm not worried about it. Hopefully. No, they will. I've heard that compatible couples tend to score similar on the ocean traits. These contradicts what you're saying. How do you reconcile this? I have seen a lot of ocean or canoe are the big five. Interesting that somebody made that. I have seen people score similar, and I have seen more people score different. And I have seen even more people score really different. So my anecdotal research, I've probably done this with about, 400 or 500 people at this point. So I think my anecdotal research is,
Your N number.
It's pretty good. I would say I can actually look.
Value.
I actually have this written somewhere, but it's much higher in the people who score different than the people who score similar. So again, whatever works for you, and you have to figure it out. This is nothing. What we said here tonight is all generalizations. Some things will work for you, some things won't work for you. But what I always say is knowing is always better than not knowing. That's so. But I don't know that to be true that most people score similar who are married. I do this with married couples as well, and I don't think so. Is it proper to go out even if you don't really know what you're looking for? No. Is it proper to get in the car and go on a joyride when you need to get somewhere?
Can I just ask, that was a question I was going to ask before, like, I feel like, not that question, but along those lines, in the sense of, I feel like when, like, you keep on saying that, like, we should have exactly what we're looking for, but I find that sometimes, like, in my experience, it works against me, because then I'm like, have this vision, but people are so dynamic.
So go through the process and then store it away. Allow life to happen, but you need to also have a vision of, because so often...
No one's ever going to be your vision.
No, but you have... Maybe I'm not identifying it
You're definitely
properly.
not going to have a complete vision.
No, of course not. Maybe I'm not identifying it proper. I need to find different words to describe it, because I think you're right. There's a lot of... I'm generalizing here. There's a lot of people that I have met who really have no idea what they're looking for. I don't think you're one of them. But those people who really have no idea what they're looking for, they need to figure out something. It doesn't have to be everything. They can use one of many resources that are available, but something. You shouldn't just, because then they're like, I don't know, I have it, I set it all up, and like, how was it? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Like, you just dated somebody, you went on a date, what do you mean you don't know? I don't know, yeah, I wasn't feeling it, what do you want me to do? If you want, I can get a fireworks and I can put it behind your back and then you'll have sparks over there. Like, what are you looking for? They're looking for sparks. If you're looking for sparks, you're not going to get the sparks. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about people who don't know what they're looking for. People who know what they're looking for don't have this problem.
I think part of knowing what you're looking, like I think what she's asking is like, how do you like balance knowing what you're looking for while at the same time being open-minded? So I think part of knowing what you're looking for is knowing what you really, really need and what you really, really need in like a very laser-focused way.
I think you're
which can
also,
allow you to be more
I think what's happening is there are people who are very hard on themselves who are looking at this and saying, this is too much. If you're hard on yourself, this is not for you. This is for people who are going out there and like, I don't know. Believe me, there's a lot more of that, unfortunately. Yeah, but I agree with that.
So your advice could be the opposite depending on the person.
Absolutely. Additionally, if you have multiple suggestions, what is the best way to go about choosing one? Just choose one. But don't choose 3.
I saw somewhere that was said that the first one who said yes.
Yeah, I like that. The first one who said yes. That works for me.
The first one you said yes on, like, the other side, or the first one that he said yes?
Either way, I think is fine, but just choose one. And don't look at anybody else until further notice. Don't say, oh, but I could have had that. No. Put your eggs in that basket. Don't overthink. How to move from past relationships if you're having a hard time getting over. We've gone through this. Therapy. Okay. And last one, how do I have to be holding halachically on a certain level to get married to my soulmate? You have to be holding on whatever level that soulmate is holding. Hopefully, if you're a female, a little more. If you're a male, maybe also a little more if you can. I don't know. Should we close the evening?
One last question, I think, and then we'll close the evening. And then anyone who'd love to help clean up, and so we'll after the question, then well, actually, for the question, I think Rabbi Bernath deserves, my God, more than a round of applause.
More than a round of applause, I'd like. Was this helpful? What?
Yes.
Can I just go around the room? I'm just so curious because there's enough of us here that I'm just curious if I can end off. Tell me one nugget that you're taking from tonight.
Say yes.
Huh?
Say yes.
Say yes. I like that. Okay. Anyone else? A nugget that you're taking
The spectrum thing, that like they be 24, not 38, like that.
Okay, the spectrum on the big 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got a big one, being
What?
married, just to appreciate the differences, because I struggle with that, so I'm
Okay.
That's good.
Make sure you have your big 5, like your 5 traits that you're looking for.
Okay. So you like the big 5?
I mean, I've heard it. I listened to like a daily like Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, so Jordan Peterson has made it very famous recently. Yeah. It existed before him, though.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Looking at conflict in a positive way.
Looking at conflict in a positive way, I like that. Yeah. The emotional bonding being the 80% of the attraction. Thank you. I wish more people would think like that. It would help the dating process.
Pay attention to the other person.
Pay attention to the other person. Anything else on this side?
Advocating for the people in the Jewish communities.
Advocating.
It's
okay.
For the girl to be a little more
So the system is only good for 20%.
It's good for the girl to be a little more religious. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you all. It's been really amazing.